Thanks. Thanks for having me. Now I'll be ready to be thoroughly bored. So, let me give you a little bit of my background. I work for the Hearst Corporation. We own some things that you may have heard or may not have heard about. We own 20% of ESPN. Does that ring a bell? Lifetime, A&E, Bio, History Channel, Oprah Magazine, Elle, Cosmo, Town and Country, Good Housekeeping. We launched a show called The Voice, if you've ever heard of that. Who's heard of The Voice? Okay. Are you smarter than a fifth grader?
Yes, I am.
That's one of our shows, and I'm very proud of you. So I want to give you a little bit of our background. We have probably one of the largest digital agencies in the United States. We handle brands like Rolex, Procter & Gamble, Hilton, Hyatt. They generally spend a lot of money with us, but we do all of their marketing. So it is a full agency, big time service. So I'm here to talk about the digital race, because this race has started a long time ago. This digital race has many components. It has what we call the sprint, that's search engine marketing. It has something we call the jog, that is PR web or story or content syndication. And it has something we call the marathon, that is your SEO or search engine optimization. Those three things make up the sprint, the jog, and the marathon. I'm going to talk a lot about how social integrates into this. My main topic that I'm going to cover today will be websites. And then each of the speakers will go through their different pieces, and you'll get a lot of background. Who do you think will win here? Okay. The Honda, maybe. It's got more gas in the tank. So this right here is what I call yellow pages. Okay, I'll tell you why. The content cannot be changed, it cannot be refreshed for 12 months. That technology has changed the entire landscape of what print yellow pages used to be. When was the last, who's opened up a phone book in the last 30 days? Okay, we got somebody right here. You just threw away.
It doesn't make it past the front porch.
So let's understand the dynamics. Back in 2008, $16 billion was being spent on yellow pages. This year, it'll be less than, I don't know, 4 billion or so. A couple years, it'll be less than 2 billion. And soon, it just won't matter. A lot of folks still put their money there. So the usage is here. The spend is here. I want you to understand the differences of what I'm going to take you through with digital. So this is where digital begins. This means, okay, I got a website. I'm starting to do some connection, doing a little Facebook. Not really purchasing search engine marketing, not going really fast. And when you get into digital marketing services, with some of the things you're going to hear about today, you will become that race car. So let's just talk a little bit about search engine optimization. How many folks have ever done a Google search? Okay. That result page that comes back is called SERP, or Search Engine's Result Page. What you find there are answers. Those answers are ranked based on your content, your quality of content, and what links you have into that content, and how it ties out to your website, and all those different aspects that a lot of folks just don't focus on. They set it and forget it. If you put up your website and leave it, you basically are saying, I'm going to stay a Honda pretty much for the rest of my life. Not that that's a bad car. This is how it feels when people find you. Okay? That means you sold something, or they engaged with you, or they learned about your product or your service. You taught them something. And I'm going to get into my discussion. I'm going to talk about websites and why they're so important and what's changed. So back in 2006, This is where you needed to be found. It's changed a lot. Okay? That experience of a website needs to move in and out, vector scale properly, and adjust based on the 6,000 different types of devices that look it up. Really key. So, quick couple of fun facts. How many folks have a smartphone? So mobile is king. The phone that you have in your pocket is more powerful than the technology it took to put that on the moon. It's really changed a lot. Touch screens, voice activation are taking over. So I'm going to give you a little bit of history on some pieces about search and why it ties to websites. Paid search, it's taken off. There's two things that we see that are going to go crazy. Mobile paid search, and display on mobile. So let's think about how you advertise now. Advertising is so diluted because there's so many ways to get your message out there. Brand advertising needs to be always on. So what you own and what you control in the space will give you a better slope for adding different products and services. And I'll show you what that looks like. So let's just talk about who's king of the search? Google. They're here, so I got to say that. No, they really are. 18.3 billion searches occurred in February. This is the percentage and who controls it. You don't see a Yellow Page company up there. So, what is the most powerful website in Augusta? The Chronicle. What is the most powerful website in Chicago? The Tribune. Why is that? It's hyper-local. It's content that's constantly updating. Think about Google, Yahoo, Bing. What do? Do they create that content? No, they index that content. And they look for the best content they can find, and they give it authority and strength and power. That authority, or organic power, or SEO rank, or page rank. In this area, it's the Chronicle. So if you're tied to the Chronicle, you get a lift. If you're not tied to the Chronicle, you don't. So that's the Chronicle side. The reason why we have newspapers and magazines and TV stations and TV shows and other things like Pandora, that was one of our first investments in the music space, is because we want that content. No different than anybody else out there. So let's just take a look at what's going on in this space. Google launched something called Panda. Poor content, what's that mean? Poor results on ranking. If you pay for search engine marketing to be found in what I call the big super 7, the lower, the poorer, the worse your content, the more you're going to pay. The better your content, the less you're going to pay. Penguin was released. You got to love the names Google puts out there. It was released to stop link practices that are just what they consider not ethical. So you write a story about pizza, and then you link an ad for Toyota. Okay? You just can't do that. It's got to be relevant. And amplifying the social signals. Where's this all going? I love this part. I did this on the plane coming. Over time, what we think that's coming next is that social signals, search, and mobile are all going to converge. And those are the places you need to be. So let me get into my part, responsive web development and web design. How many folks have their site done with RWD? Nice. Is that good or bad? What do you think?
I think it's worth it.
It's absolutely worth it. And I'll tell you why. Google, Yahoo, and Bing, if your site is not mobile optimized, they block you basically from showing up on their mobile searches. So you have to have a mobile site. Now, should you have a desktop site and a separate mobile site? You can. It's kind of like the Honda. But when you want to get into the game, you're going to have a mobile site that is linked to your core website with a little bit of code variation, one spot, and it responds and shows up properly on every device. And here's what's key. You change your mobile site to have the call to action that makes sense. Call now, directions, coupons, a video, contact us, other locations. You don't put up there, let me tell you the history of my company. When you're on a mobile device driving, anybody do that? And you're looking for a place, or you want to call to see if they're open, or their hours of operation, you want to be able to find it by searching. Who controls the mobile search space? Somebody. Tell me who you think controls the mobile search space. Google controls about 99% of it for now. They continue to expand in the mobile space. So if somebody's searching and you don't have a mobile website, or your site isn't built responsively where it vectors and scales properly, and Google doesn't see that, they block you, or they don't give you rating, or you don't show up. And it's a bad experience. Responsive web development means every screen can show something different. In this deck, which you, by the way, you'll get this deck. Tony, you're going to make sure that they can download the deck. There's a link. You can go test your own website and see how it displays on a tablet, phone, or desktop. I call that tri-screen. You'll hear other terms. The tri-screen to me is the most important. You'll hear other folks talk about the TV as the fourth screen. The tri-screen to me is where your business needs to be. So how does this benefit you? Let's just talk about it. Content management is easy. You manage all the content for your mobile site and your desktop site from one spot. Here's the kicker. I want you to think about how your site's being quality ranked. Somebody looks at your website, you get score for people going to it, you get score for backlinks, you get score for the content. And I'll give you some example. You can have keyword density of what they say is about 2.9%. That means if you have a website, and I'll use the pizza example, and if you just write, I sell pizza, 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 you will be punished. Okay? If you write 100 words and you have pizza 3 times, that's ideal. Well, that's just based on testing. Okay? Here's one of the things that makes perfect sense. Think about your URL. When you have a separate mobile site and a separate desktop site, you either have a separate URL or you redirect off your core website to that mobile site. When somebody goes to your mobile site, you lose the main URLs, connectivity, backlinks, age, all the good parts that you've been working towards. When you have a responsive web design or website, it's the same URL. You get all that traffic, you get all that age, you get all that lift that you've built. I listed some sites here that when you get the deck, you can take a look and go check them out. These are fairly good sites. They'll give you some good ideas on what a good site layout should look like. So let's talk about e-commerce. Some sites you don't need e-commerce. Some sites you do, depending on your business. But you should set your site up to interact with the customers. You don't build a site just so, thank you, we sell pizza, I was formed in 1945, and we have grandma's secret sauce. No, you want them to interact. So e-commerce is not just about selling pizza, like click here to order now. A lot of folks can do that, a lot of folks won't. Call now, directions to find us, print my coupon. On your mobile device, have that QR code in your shop so they can scan it to get today's specials, sign up for your newsletter or your email marketing from Constant Contact, etc. So WordPress, perfect example of an easy to use CMS tool to manage your content. But somebody has to build your site. So when you build your site, I'll give you an example. To build an average website that's okay, pretty good, takes about 40 hours. So if you have 40 hours and you know what the heck you're doing, you build a nice creative site. If you want to build a really sophisticated site, it takes about 80 hours. If you want to really bolt on some high-end e-commerce, it could take about 120 hours. So that gives you an idea of, no matter who you look at, what you should be looking at. That is the race car. For some of you, that's too much. And you go with the Honda. You can have a templated site built for you and a templated mobile site built for you, and you just won't have to spend that kind of funds. But in the end, if your business is going to be here, you're always on billboard, your sign outside your business is your website. Some administration pages, you can see this when you get the deck. So at Hearst, when we build our high-end websites, we use responsive. We use Twitter Bootstrap for the framework. That framework allows us to set up the page with nice plugins. We attach Google Analytics, load that into our dashboard. Pretty sophisticated. We always use videos and pictures because they're very engaging. We always use the best SEO tactics. So we use VSEO for the video. We use the right terms behind the scenes, the right title tags, meta tags. And we do all the on-site things that we're supposed to do to get ranked. What does that guarantee? Nothing. Okay. What that does is set you up so that you can be found and be ranked. You still have to do off-site tactics, site submission, submit to the DMOZ directories, make sure that you do blogs about your site, set up the right links that are not bad links, real good, high-quality content links, and change that content. I say every 28 days, only because when I talk to Google, they say within 30, but I've seen it only work at 28. That's just through practice. So I talked a little bit about this before. Here's your traditional marketing. I'll use TV. By the way, we have 29 ABCs. So this is really big for us. Somebody buys TV, we launch, gets some power branding message out there, shuts down. We're off right here. Then we buy some more TV ads and it goes on. If you have $100,000 that you spend a month on TV, which, by the way, there's a lot of folks that do that. Most of them are PI attorneys or plastic surgeons or cosmetic dental. If they took $10,000 a month and put it into SEO, SEM, social media management, with call tracking, true measurement, tools that we call like local track, where we give the fake phone number and we point it to the real number, a vanity URL, that we take a fake URL and point it to the real URL. And we do tracking on that. And we give the TV station with that commercial a different URL and a different phone number. The internet package will outperform that TV ad 99 to 1. Because TV is about branding. We sell a ton of it. It's to get things to get folks to think about that company and that commercial over and over again. But if you want actions, if you want folks to dial your phone, go to your website, engage with you socially, you will engage in digital marketing services. By the way, think mobile first. So here's your audience, and here's what it grows to by running TV, standalone. Here's the difference. Now I'm going to own or earn my own audience by having my website always on, having my Facebook page for my business always on, having my Google Plus local page always on, having my Twitter feed always on. This is what you get over time. When you layer on your paid advertising, search engine marketing, TV, newspaper, radio, that's what happens to your audience. So advertising and marketing is about a holistic approach of bringing it all together. You can't do just one thing anymore. It doesn't work. And it always has to be on. And for me, it starts with your major billboard, the website. As you promote through email, search engine marketing, search engine optimization, setting up your YouTube channel, all these things are pretty complicated and pretty time consuming. So we have a huge digital agency that handles this. If you're willing to spend $1 million today with me each month, I will assign 50 people to you every single month, and you can be my Toyota. Okay, I'm kidding. That's not what you're here for today. You're here to learn about digital marketing services, and I'm giving you what we do on a high level. TAC, or the Augusta Chronicle, does this stuff on a local level for a lot less than $1 million a month. So we've given them some of our best practices, tools, things that they can use. Always on. I talked a lot about content. Your content is king. So that's where you come in. No matter who you use for your website builder or partner, who you use for your search engine marketing partner, it doesn't matter. It's your content. You make sure it's right and it's good and it's yours. Because that's how you get found. And being found with the right message at the right time is how you will make business decisions and you'll make money. So I gave you the search numbers. Let me give you some other numbers. How many folks generally in the world? 7 billion or so? 7 billion. How many desktop screens in the world? About 1.8 billion. How many mobile devices in the world? Almost 5.9 billion. Good guess. In the United States, depending on which survey you read online, ComScore, etc., they will tell you that out of the 314 million US folks, about 220 million actually have active phones, smartphones. Active meaning they actually use the web browsing, use the phone fully. What's the number 2 search engine behind Google? m.youtube.com. m.youtube.com. So if you don't have a video on your website, if you don't have a video on your YouTube channel, if you're not looking at TrueViews, which is search engine marketing on YouTube, you're missing out. Google's going through a lot of changes. They just added something called modifiers to their search engine marketing platform. What that does is it allows you to go from -100 to +300. Ty, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just going by the reading that I do. You'll hear from Google after me. That allows, through your search engine marketing spend, for you to direct money to your mobile spend or not to your mobile spend. -100 means you spend 0. +300 means you spend 3 times as much on mobile than you do on your desktop spend. But here's the difference. Your mobile campaign converts 2 times better than your desktop campaign. And there's a reason for that. It's geo-targeted, meaning wherever your phone is, if they know where you are, they can serve you ads that fit your location. Google's pretty darn smart. They drive me crazy. They also have radius targeting. That means if this is your business center address, 20 miles around your business, they draw a circle and put up a gate. Anyone comes into that gate and they find you, they serve your ad. So you can see it gets real complicated on setting this all up. I don't have a couple slides, but I'll talk a little bit about this. How much time do I have, Tony? Okay, so I got a minute.
You got a minute.
Think about this. You go out and you buy the word cat insurance. That means when somebody types in cat insurance in that box on Google, you want your ads to show up in the big 7. It has changed so much that under cat insurance, they now have about 90 words that you have to build specific campaigns for about 10 to 20 of those words for just that. So to do a campaign right, you can't just take 10,000 keywords and put it under one ad text. You have to build, I don't know, 400, 500 campaigns and have 10 to 20 keywords under each campaign. And if you don't do that, more than likely you're wasting half your money. So think about this when you're setting all this stuff up. Hopefully you learned a little bit about this because they're kicking me off the stage. Thank you for your time.
He'll be back. He holds a BS in business from Ohio State University and lives with his wife and twin boys in California. Today, the title of his message is Acceleration of Everything. Please join me in welcoming Ty Schlegel. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, no one booed when he said Ohio State, so I didn't hear any go dogs. Where are they? I really, I forgot my clicker already. Really appreciate being here. I always had a dream to come to Augusta. 3 weeks early, huh? What do you think about that? 3 weeks. I just, over lunch, I drove around and I tried to get in. Yeah, I tried, yeah. I actually did a Google search on how much time I would spend in jail. I'm trying to weigh the options here. Is it worth hopping the fence or not? I don't know how my wife would feel about getting delayed on the way back due to that. So I really appreciate your time. I'm going to talk a little bit about digital, what's happening in the digital space, some of the things we're seeing. Not all Google. I'm going to relate it back to what we do because that's my job. And I'll give you a few points to take away to hopefully help your business. And I do apologize. I have water. I'm getting over a cold. I sat next to a really sweet, innocent girl on the plane, and she wasn't that innocent. She gave me a cold. So you know how those planes are. So I apologize if I have to stop from time to time. My voice will crack up. But take a look at this picture. Anyone know what's happening here in South Korea?
QR scanner. They're faking the products on the
Yeah.
shelf? Is that a fake
Yep,
thing?
he's faking. So he's doing his grocery shopping. He's in a Subway. This is a billboard outside the Subway, and he is doing his grocery shopping. Anyone find that fascinating? When are we going to see that in New York City? I don't know, but South Korea is usually far ahead of us. Why I wanted to start with this picture is a couple reasons. This is a billboard. This is traditional advertising, right? We see it all the time. When I drove from Atlanta here, I saw a nice big billboard for Chick-fil-A, right? What's the difference about this than what I saw in Chick-fil-A? Well, let me go through my Chick-fil-A experience. So I see a billboard, Chick-fil-A, and I said, man, I'm out of California. I'm in Georgia. There's Chick-fil-A. This is awesome. I start driving. My stomach starts to growl a little bit. I pull over because I'm not going to do a search on my phone while I'm driving, and I look up, when does Chick-fil-A close? Because I'm right around 9 o'clock, and I'm thinking, so I do that, and I find out it's 10. Great. Next one, Chick-fil-A. Where's the nearest Chick-fil-A? Guess who had Chick-fil-A for dinner last night? Yeah, me did. So what happened was I had a stimulus, a billboard, Chick-fil-A billboard, and it took some time, and I did some searches, and I researched it, and eventually I'd made the purchase. What's happening here is there's a stimulus. Here are the products right in front of him. And what's the purchase? Instantaneous. Why is he able to do that? Mobile phones. I'm going to continue right along with what Jeff said about this. So mobile phones are shaking up everything. I just don't know how to really explain that any better, but it's changing the landscape. And it's really, when we talk about acceleration within digital, a major piece of that, the biggest piece I would say, is mobile. So let's just talk about some digital stats, what's out there. When we look at the evolution of digital, we kind of splice it into three different areas or eras. So we first start out with reading, right? There's information on the internet. This is where my company came to birth, is saying there's information out here, we're going to direct you to that. So people start reading it. Then what happens, they start thinking commerce. We can actually purchase things. Remember when eBay started, and this was a big thing. Amazon, one of the largest companies now. Then all of a sudden, there's communication. There's Facebook, there's YouTube, there's Twitter. All these things you're able to do now within this is driving a lot of change within the industry. So here are some numbers for you. So when we talk about the connected world, and let me tell you, these stats are from 2011. Already outdated. Can't keep up with ComScore. So when we look at this, some amazing statistics. We all know about Facebook, right? It's close to 1 billion users, maybe even more by this count. A lot of people spend a lot of time on Facebook. There's blogs, there's content. YouTube, Jeff talked a little bit about. 72 hours of YouTube content is uploaded every minute. Pretty crazy, huh? A lot of servers needed to get that data. 4 billion streams every day. Anyone contribute to that? Everything is what we call up and to the right, meaning the graph keeps going up and to the right. It keeps growing within digital. We can accommodate that. Here's some other fun stats. So eBay sold $2 billion on the mobile phone in 2010. I just recently saw a stat that's not up here. This is a stat on Kenya. 31% of Kenyans' national GDP was spent through a mobile device. That's crazy, right? Jeff talked about close to 6 billion mobile phones worldwide, as opposed to 7 billion people. Mobile phones are driving this. We're seeing commerce. We've always seen some sort of communication. We're seeing more digital communication. Fun stats. Anyone contribute to the 125 years of Angry Birds played every day? Where do you think you do that? On your phone. Oh, there's a common thread here. So Japan had that big disaster, and we saw 4.5 million done through via text message. Sometimes you see it on Twitter. The world is changing. It's becoming more connected. You're able to integrate with things. This is just happening at a crazy rapid pace. So why is this happening? I talked a little bit about mobile phones, but here's what I think is crazy from an adoption rate standpoint. So let's look at traditional radio. It took 37, 38 years to get to about 50 million users. TV was far less than that, even half. Internet, even less. We'll do our own little sample size here. So the iPhone came out in June of 2007. Who owned a smartphone or an iPhone by the end of 2008? Very good. Now let's talk about a tablet. So the iPad came out in March of 2010. Who owned one by March of 2011? Anyone? Very good. Who has an iPad with them here? Yep, look at this. So what's happening is we're getting devices into people's hands earlier. How many have kids that have a mobile device? Teenagers. My kids are not even 2 and they know how to swipe a screen already. They do that on the television, actually. There's great marks along it. Integrate. People use it all the time. We use it everywhere. It's just what's happening. And this is what's driving the massive amount of growth within the digital space. If you don't believe me, let's take a little picture. So Pope was just elected. Well, let's rewind to 2005, Pope Benedict. Right? Inauguration, pretty cool. What did it look like in 2013? Anyone notice a difference? You want me to rewind?
That flip phone in the corner.
Yeah. iPads. Apparently that's very mobile now. But mobile phones everywhere. It's changing everything. You probably get news faster on Twitter than you do on traditional sites. That's where I go for my 140 character news updates. Usually directs me to a source if I want to read more information. This is what's happening. It's becoming so rapid. Everyone seems to have a mobile phone. Does this look familiar? Jeff talked about that. We call this the four-screen world, but we're generally talking about the same thing. When we talk about 4 screens, we're talking about a mobile phone, a desktop or a laptop, a tablet, and your television. And we interact with them all the time. You see 2 people in this? How many screens? 4. If you had kids, what would they probably have? Same thing. Right? Multiple iPads. Here's some fun stats. People look at their phone 150 times per day. Maybe while driving, maybe they shouldn't be. 41% of Super Bowl searches came from mobile. We see this interaction that we weren't seeing before, is that we have traditional, like television, right? Super Bowl ads. What happens from that? There's a lot of using today's technology, we're connecting with individuals. You ever get sick of seeing Twitter live updates while you're watching your television show? My mother-in-law was just in town and loves Dancing with the Stars. After each performance, there would be tweets that were going through. First thing you do while you're watching a television show is you're searching on your inner phone. Everything's becoming intertwined. So we see a lot of screens because people are using screens. We're seeing mobile phones. We're seeing tablets. But what also is changing is what exactly is desktop? What exactly is a laptop? What's a tablet? What's a mobile phone? I'll give you a couple examples. What's happening to mobile phone screen sizes? Have you ever heard of the phablet, they call it? No? It's between a tablet and a phone, a phablet. Because they're becoming bigger and bigger. What happened with iPads? What did they just announce? The Mini. So they're getting smaller, and mobile phones are getting bigger. What's going to happen? Eventually, we're going to intersect. Let's take even a tablet, for example. What if you plug an iPad into a keyboard? Does it become more like a laptop? Do we use it more like a laptop? I think Microsoft came up with the Microsoft Surface. What is that? Tablet? Keyboard? I can't really answer that. These are just some of the things we're seeing here, is that we're having multiple devices. We're going in between one another, but we're using them differently based upon different things. Does it have a touch screen? Do I have it on me more often? Jeff talked about that. Mobile phones are on you all the time. And if I'm a pizza restaurant right here, if me as a user is searching for pizza and I'm right around the corner, you think that user is more valuable to you? Probably. They're more likely to convert if they're that close. So these are some of the things we're seeing just in the digital space. What I'd like to do is talk about consumption as opposed to ad spend. And this should be alarming to a few of you. So look at the top, we have 25% online consumption versus the investment of 19. So there's room for improvement there. That's not the alarming statistics. Look at the feet here. And granted, this is older data, but it hasn't changed that much from a percentage standpoint when it comes to the investment. But 8% of consumption is done mobile versus less than half, or about half a percent versus ad spend. So there's a huge opportunity within the mobile space that no one's really capturing. And Jeff said, hey, who owns the mobile space? Google does. There's very little competition right now. So in 2012, summing up our goal as Google in 3 words was mobile, social, local. So we were going to go after mobile and social and local. We changed it in 2013. We eliminated 2 of those words. What do you think we were left with? Mobile. Mobile. Our chairman said, if you don't have a mobile marketing strategy, you don't have a marketing strategy. We're not saying social and local is not important, but who's going to win with all that is who captures mobile. We're seeing that throughout the world, just in the stat about Kenya. 31% of all the GDP is spent through a mobile phone. It's astounding, and it's changing so quickly. We're getting phones refreshed all the time. They're on us all the time. We don't leave home without it, right? I left my laptop back at the table. What didn't I leave? get a little twitch if he leaves me too. Right? Yeah. We love it. You leave your house, and what do you grab? Your wallet, your keys, mobile phone. It's just natural. So let's talk about what that means when it comes to local, which is what you guys care about most. The opportunity is huge. So 97% of online consumers use the web to research a product. So it's our go-to source when we're looking for information locally. When we look at desktop, we see 1 in 5 searches are have local intent. What we mean by that is the user is searching for something in the local space, something close to them. What happens with mobile? 1 in every 3. So it becomes a huge opportunity in local space. It just makes sense. So we'll do our own little sample size here. How many of you brought your desktop with you today? Laptop? A few more. Tablet? A few more. Mobile phone? Pretty much everyone, right? And that's what it is. It's always on, always with us. It knows probably the most intimate details of our lives, our mobile phone does. I know, scary, but it's very true. Knows who you call, where you go, what you search for, knows a lot of information. So the opportunity when we talk about the local space is tremendous, and I think it's amazing in the mobile space. And I'm not saying completely eliminate desktop, because the majority of searches still come from desktop. Don't kid yourself, but it's pretty steady. It's a steady kind of line that we see. What we see up and to the right, we see mobile and tablet. So that's where all the growth's coming, and when we see tablets kind of replacing a lot of our activities when it comes to online desktop. So we're seeing a lot more use, and when you have a choice at home and you're sitting in front of the television, do you grab your desktop? Probably not. You might do your laptop, but most likely you're grabbing your tablet or your mobile phone, and that's just what it is. So when we look locally, and we're going to I just took a few examples here. Don't squint, you'll get the deck, but we're looking at decorators, legal, plumbing, restaurants, and auto maintenance. And this is search growth, so it's query growth. This is from 2009 into 2011, and what we see is continued healthy success and growth. So when we look at this and when our analysts see this, we see great news when it comes to a local space is that people aren't stopping looking for local information. It's only getting more and more. People are looking for local information more and more. It's our go-to source, and that's what we decide when we have a preference. We go to the internet to look for these things. So that's it from a high level, kind of what we're seeing. We're seeing positive things. Nothing has indicated otherwise. And when it comes to mobile phones, we can't even project it. I heard a senior VP tell us this, that in 2012, Google, who prides themselves on gathering data and projecting the future, we had various projections, very conservative to very aggressive, on what mobile phone was going to do in 2012. The actual data surpassed our even wildest expectations. We couldn't get it right. So that's why when it changed to completely mobile, that's why we did it. We have to get it right because that's where the future is. So 4Bs, this is a way we're trying to say, what can you guys take away? How can you capture this? It's be found, be relevant, be engaging, and be accountable. I'll go into each of them here. But be found. Sometimes the internet looks like a Where's Waldo, doesn't it? Can't seem to find out. You feel like maybe as an advertiser you're in a crowd. You don't know what to do. You know people are around. You know people want your product, but how do I be found? And this wouldn't be a Google presentation without a Google slide, but you'll see some of this. Jeff talked about this. So when you do a query and you search in this case it's pizza, what happens is there are ads that are delivered and there are organic search results that are delivered. When we talk about ads, the beauty of ads is you can turn them on instantly and you can deliver an appropriate message to that user. So be found, this is a great way. When people's eyes go to a search page, they'll talk about this a little bit later, but How long are you on a search page for? Hours? No. Seconds, right? Your eyes go to the top. Your eyes go to the side. This is valuable real estate in order to say, hey, user looking for pizza, guess what? I've got what you need. Here I am. I know you're looking for this. I know you're reviewing things. Here I am. This is a great way to be noticed. People go to Google. 2 out of every 3 searches in the US are done through Google. When we talk about worldwide, it's even greater. It's in the 70s, depending upon what country. 10.7. This is the number, on average, of researches a user will do before purchasing. So the days of there's a stimulus, and I go in front of the shelf, let's just use a grocery store, and I'm sitting there and I'm at my what's called moment of truth, and I'm about to make the purchase. Usually that happened quickly. What now is happening is what we're calling a 0 moment of truth, which is we research stuff. We research stuff a lot. We research prices. We research what our friends are saying about it. We might go on Facebook. We might go on Google+. We might look at other generic websites. We might look at who has free shipping. We're no longer just making that impulse buy as we're actually researching it. And I would argue we're doing it on site because of the mobile phone. How many people have scanned barcodes, checking out prices? Do it all the time. And it's allowed us to do it. So when people go to research, they usually go on search. They look at pizza reviews, pricing on pizza. We're rolling with this pizza example now. They're just looking for information. This is a great way to be found when they're looking for that. Here's another stat since what the recession is. That 10.7 is very appealing, but we're more aware of where our dollars are going. I think we all are. We understand that things got tough, and so we're going to look for it, and we know we have the ability. We have so much power in our pocket through a mobile phone is that we're able to see it. So more people, 54% of consumers are spending more time researching because we're looking for good deals. We're making sure this is the right purchase before. And a lot of that's recession. A lot of that is due to the power that we have through a mobile device. Be relevant. When it comes to mobile and desktop, you hear us preaching mobile and mobile, mobile. I'm not saying completely ignore desktop, but mobile is where the growth is. And in the local space, that's where you're going to see a lot of great ROI. Jeff saw 2 times greater, I guess, from mobile over desktop. This is what we're seeing often in the local space. So be relevant. When people are on a mobile phone and they go and they click on an ad or click on a result and it takes them to a non-mobile optimized site. Ever done that where you click on it and then you have to scroll in, move over, scroll back out? Was that what I saw? Move over. We are very impatient people. What are you going to do if you run into a non-mobile optimized site? You bounce back out. So let's say you paid for that result, you paid for that click, and then someone bounces back. Well, you just paid for nothing. Don't do that. We're seeing over 50% of people that click on a website that goes to a non-mobile optimized site will bounce back. And then around 40% will then recommend a competitor site that has a mobile optimized site. So there's a lot of risk here, and be relevant to that. Jeff talked about a few of the changes we're doing here at Google. We're making it. Google's always been great about intent. If someone goes to Google and they put in pizza, are they looking for a Corvette? Trick question. No, of course. They're looking for pizza. There's intent there. They're telling you exactly what they want. They want pizza. But what we're seeing now is that if you put pizza at a certain time during the day from a mobile phone, that context that we're coming in, that we're seeing from a mobile phone, and it's at 6 p.m. at night, might lead to different things than if you were searching on a desktop in the morning for pizza. So we're making it easier for you to service good ads, relevant ads, for a mobile device or for a desktop based upon these context clues. A lot of great changes coming from Google. It's already been announced. It'll be fully rolling out in June. So talk with some of the partners you work with because I think there's some really great things there. And you need to be engaging. Anyone heard of the Aura Brush? No? That's too bad. So I'm going to give you two examples that I think are really, really cool. They're both on YouTube. So the Aura Brush, a guy looked and said, 90% of bad breath is basically stuff on your tongue. So I'm going to invent a brush that scrapes that in order to help, bad breath out. But what happened is he said, I just don't know how to market it. How would I market this? So he went on YouTube, made a very engaging and funny video, if you see him dressed up like a giant tongue, right? And he started selling these Aura brushes. And guess what? People thought it was funny. And what did they do with funny videos? Share them, right? Put them on Facebook, you send them through emails, you do all these things. Guess who contacted him looking to distribute his Aura brush? Walmart. Why? Because people are coming into Walmart asking for the Aura brush. Kind of crazy, isn't it? Here's another fun story. Dollar Shave Club. Anyone seen this video? All right, if you want a good laugh, just put in Dollar Shave Club. This guy said, why are razors so expensive? I have this business model. I'm going to send a pack of razors every month for $1. There's various levels, but for $1 for the cheapest razors, I'm going to call it the Dollar Shave Club. But how in the world do I market it? I'm going to throw it on YouTube. Make a really funny video, and it is absolutely funny. What happened? Close to 10 million views. He just got $10 million worth of funding. There are a few people that don't like his video. Gillette, Jack, all these, they don't like it. I'm a member of the Dollar Shave Club, by the way. I love it. So it's a great way to engage with your customers with good content. And this is an advertisement. The Aura Brush is an advertisement. When people share it, put it on Facebook, put it on Google+, what happens? You're getting free advertising. This is unheard of. There are going to be winners and losers in this space. This is a great example of how to win in this space. And be accountable. When we look at traditional advertising as opposed to Google, one of the greatest, we call it the 3 R's, but one of those R's is ROI. The common phrase is in traditional advertising is, I know that 50% of my advertising works. Problem is I don't know what 50%. You ever heard that? And the problem is they just don't know where it's coming. They don't know what's getting the good ROI. Beauty of Google is it helps with that. You see where your clicks are coming. You see what keywords are delivering great things. And you're able to then be accountable with yourself in the back end through analytics, through the back end of AdWords to see that success. You need to look, you need to be accountable to where your dollars are going. You need to have a strategy, and you need to take advantage of this. This is the greatest, when we talk about advertising, being able to see where your advertising dollars are going and where they're making impact, that's huge potential for your business. But in no way am I sitting up here saying it's easy. So I'm going to jump to this. This is my segue, right? There are a lot of questions that can't be answered by Google. And what I mean by this is that it can be complicated. I know AdWords is tough. I tried to make my own campaigns. When you get in, I'm well aware that all of you are very capable of running a successful AdWords campaign. What I also know is that's going to take you a lot of time and a lot of effort. So when it comes to this, I'm a part of what we call our channel sales organization, which we support partners that are capable of providing our SMBs, our small and medium businesses, with excellent support in order to have a successful AdWords campaign. They have in-depth knowledge and expertise. They know how to do campaign management. They have customer support because we know how hard it is. We've tried to sell it directly to SMBs, Google AdWords, and we failed miserably. And this is why we're going about this in this way. Luckily, we have a great partner of ours, a PSP partner, which is our premier partners, which we're saying are the cream of the crop in order to give you great support right in this room. So I wanted to end with this because I know maybe some of you have tried to have successful AdWords campaigns and have failed. It happens all the time. Maybe it's just too complicated. You didn't even want to look in it. I'm saying there's a great way to have a successful campaign, and I would encourage you to at least look to working through a partner because I've seen it happen all the time, and this is why I'm part of the channel sales organization. It's because we support these partners in order to help the small and medium business out there that we always claim to help. Google said, listen, we're here to level the playing field. So the small guy can compete with the big guy. I'm letting you know you're probably going to need support with that. You don't want to waste all the time in the world. Focus on helping your business. So with that said, I'd like to thank everyone for your time and for your ears. And if you guys have any questions, if you are on Google+, you can circle me. It's Ty Schlegel. And if you're on Twitter, it's T Schleg, T-S-C-H-L-E-G. I'd be happy to help you out in any way I can. But I really appreciate your time. And if you have extra Masters tickets, I'll be over here. Thank you.
This time we'll move on to our next speaker. Chess Hagen is a co-founder of Vendasta Technologies Incorporated. Previously, he served as COO of Point2 Technologies, Inc. Chess held the title of Vice President of Sales prior to being named COO. In addition to his work with Vendasta, Hagen is the co-founder and partner of Alta Pacific Mortgages, a private mortgage fund based in Western Canada. He studied marketing management at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. Please give an Augusta welcome to Chess Hagen.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I've traveled a bit of a distance. It's lovely to be here. It's always nice to follow Google. No, I like it because Ty does a really good job laying out the accelerated changing world that we all live in, that we all work in, we maybe own a business in, and kind of shocks us a little bit with some of the statistics. And I'm glad he closed with what works in the sense of Google AdWords. One thing that doesn't work is a Southern accent mixed with a Canadian accent. So if I say something like, "Are you all fixing to hear about the process, eh?" That maybe isn't going to work too well. So I'll just probably stick to my Canadian accent. I apologize. But I'm from the very, very West Coast. We think that we speak with a bit more of an American flair than our East Coast Canadian friends. I'd like to just share some of our understanding and expertise in this whole space of reputation, social media management. We've been at this for 5 years now. Reputation and brand are sort of synonymous with one another. Your reputation is your brand is your reputation. It's changing in how you can manage it today because of the changing world that we all live in. A shift is happening. We've heard a lot about it, the shift towards mobile, the shift in the way that consumers digest and consume information. I'm going to talk a little bit about this shift, and then I'm going to get into some tactical methods in which, as a business, you can work on your brand and reputation management and social media management. But when we talk about a shift, we'd like to talk about this shift from the traditional media, which is fundamentally different than maybe the new media. And I'm glad for both Jeff and Ty, who mentioned how they complement one another. And it's not a complete out with the old, in with the new, but there's certainly a blending of the two that occurs. But there's some significant differences. The traditional media world is one that is institutionally controlled for the most part. It's a mass communication method. It's typically one way in the sense that you can buy an ad and it sends a message out. It tells a story. It's kind of one-dimensional because if I put a story in the newspaper, it's going to be telling the same story to a male as a female, as a young person, as an old person, a veteran, and a high school student. But it also is something that can be bought. So if you go back years and years and years ago, Coca-Cola used to run this ad. And they used to tell consumers that for a better start in life, serve cola early. How early? How soon is too soon? Not soon enough. Laboratory tests over the last few years have proven that babies who start drinking soda during early formative periods have a much higher chance of gaining acceptance and fitting in during their preteen years. You can do that in traditional media. Maybe it was a little bit abused in the 30s and 20s and 40s, but this is the messaging that you're able to perform on a billboard, in a direct mail piece. And this is what happens in the traditional world. In the new media world, in the social media world, it's community owned. There's many sources where you can produce a message and where your customers can send messages back to you. There's no single entity that controls it. In communities like Augusta, the Chronicle may have been the only sort of message in the community over the course of the last decades. Today, the message might be carried off, over Facebook, Twitter. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. You have an equal participation, maybe even a balance towards the consumer having more participation in this social media world. And it's not just something that you can just throw money at to buy a message, because it really becomes this two-way. So what you see Coca-Cola doing, and this is from March 14th, a couple days ago, they publish a post on Facebook that asks people, what are you going to do today? Are you going to carpool? Are you going to wash your clothes in cold water? What are you going to do to help conserve the polar bears and their Arctic home? I mean, what does this have to do with Coca-Cola? Maybe it just keeps those big, nasty bears out of Vancouver. We don't need them moving further south. But this shows that they are trying to engage the consumer audience in a world where they can share and publish and comment, because there's hundreds and thousands of shares and comments on this. Of course, they're still advertising. They're still advertising in traditional media, but they're using social media as a way to engage with their customers. This is Coca-Cola. You might run or operate a small, medium business. The same applies. And so we'll look at some different ideas on that. But this power shift that's gone on is that the new media is two-way. The consumer has as much voice in your brand. They become a definition of your brand in many cases. The messages are, you can still purchase some messaging in traditional, but a lot of this side of messaging is no longer purchasable. You largely can't control much of what's being said. And so it's really creating a lot of transparency between parties, both you as a business owner and your consumer who's sharing their voice. So with that comes this fear of risk, but it also opens up a whole new world of opportunity. So, I mean, the risk kind of is, well, I can't control it. And that's kind of fearful to people. If somebody writes a Yelp review about me tomorrow and it's super critical, how do I get that down? Well, you can't take it down. So it really becomes something where you need to look at the opportunity in this whole new world, and you need to participate in this real-time customer conversation, seize the fact that it's relatively inexpensive, and understand. The one thing that's a nice opportunity is you can understand the effect of your image in a very, very rapid way. In old media, if I publish an ad in the Yellow Page book, it's going out for the whole year. I can't go to Homes and retract it if my ad sends the wrong message. If I publish an ad in the newspaper, it's out there for the day or for a couple days. If it's in a magazine, it's maybe out there for a month. I can't retract it if something sends the wrong message. And it gets expensive to know whether the message is received in the right way. I got to do a focus group, or I got to go call on my customers. In the social media world, I can provide some commentary out to my audience, and I can almost get immediate feedback. I can see whether that Dollar Club shaved men ad goes viral, or if it's not shared at all. If I put a post up and I ask people to respond with their thoughts, and I get no comments, no likes, no shares, I can immediately receive feedback as to what my audience likes or what they want to participate in. So there's that immediate feedback loop that occurs there. Your reputation or your brand is not just what you say about yourself, it's what others say about you. So you could be Delta Airlines and you could say, well, hey, we're the number one in on-time departures. But if I lost my bags on my flight down here, that's their brand to me, lost bags. And so when you think about what your brand is really no longer what you say it is. Your brand is now what your customers say it is. So when you say, well, I got the best service, or I got the lowest prices, or I got the longest opening hours, your customers will actually tell you whether you have the best service, the best prices, the shortest haircuts. That will become the brand that is defined by them. So it's this sum of the conversations. You're certainly a part of this. From our perspective, we don't like to share this whole matter that you've completely lost control of your brand, because it really is the sum of what you share and what they share, and this two-way communication that goes on. So the sum of those communications become your reputation or your brand. So let's look at just some statistics, so to speak, and let's see what people, these are maybe a little bit far away for some of you. So I'll just point out some of the high points. This says, to what extent do you trust the following forms of advertising? Recommendations from people I know. So if I see an ad and Jeff recommends it, and it's the new Lexus automobile, and my friend Jeff recommends it, I'm going to trust that. The second one is consumer opinions posted online. So if somebody I don't know, so if you share online that, hey, bought the new Lexus, love it, I trust that. What I trust the least gets down to, some traditional advertising items. So traditional advertising is trusted less than recommendations from people I know, recommendations from people I don't know. Starting to see this as the voice of customer is very impactful to the consumer. This next one is, when looking for information about products you want and need, to what extent are the following advertisings most relevant to you? The results are almost the same. So this is where I will segue into sort of reputation intelligence and really listening and becoming actively engaged with what your customers are saying about you. And it all starts with your presence online. So I'm going to kind of work through this list really quickly. When we talk about your presence online, this is just a quick little report. TAC and the Chronicle is going to prepare one of these for each one of you that has registered. So you'll receive this report for your business. And what it's going to tell you is it's going to give you an overall visibility score, which is based upon, do I have a listing on Bing Local, Google Plus Local, Yahoo Local, Yelp, Urban Spoon? If you're a restaurant, if you're a doctor, it'll be vitals.com. If you're a service business, it'll be Service Alley. If you're a car dealer, it'll be DealerRater, Cars.com, Edmunds, and so on. So it'll get vertical specific based on your industry. Are you on the directory sites? Dex, Yellow Pages, Supermedia, Yellow Book, the list goes on. And then the social sites, Facebook page, Twitter handle, and so on. Your presence online is going to define your ability to reach consumers when they perform many of those searches that we've heard about on a mobile device. But when you think about your data being present on many different places online, and on our system we monitor about 70, there's probably about a dozen that make up 90% of the volume of traffic online, maybe even about 5. But we're going to look at this on this report and in the tools that we offer and say, here's the business information. Your business is Petit Law, okay? But when we found you on Bing Local, there was a slightly different spelling to your business name. The address was slightly different. Maybe the phone number was wrong, so that you can at least acknowledge this and then use tools to correct an incorrect phone number or a wrong address. When your data is consistent on the web, not only will people phone you at the right phone number and contact you at the right address, but it'll also give you some search engine optimization, simply because you have consistency. And when you have consistency across these 20 or 50 online places like Yelp and so forth, your trust factor rises when people search for law firm in Lakeville, Minnesota, or Augusta, Georgia. So we like to talk about visibility and presence as being sort of the cornerstone or the beginning of brand and reputation management. Well, why? Well, this graph kind of helps us look at that and says, well, if I have a poor reputation or a wonderful reputation, or if I have no visibility up to positive visibility, let's say I'm a business that's super visible online. I have a profile in all 70 or 270 places, but I have a terrible reputation, right? Nobody likes me. Well, I'm probably a scam, right? What if I'm a business that's got a phenomenal reputation? Everybody in my community loves me, or those that work with me love me, but I don't have any visibility. So if somebody looks for me and they're looking for a product or service and I'm not visible online, well, that's a shame. Right? But if you happen to be a great business that people like and you're very present online, well, I think Charlie Sheen called it winning, but that's what you're doing. You're winning. Right? People are going to be able to find you. They're going to see that others enjoy working with you, that you've provided great service or great product or whatever your offering is. This is where you want to be. This is why presence online is such a critical piece of reputation or brand management. Then we get into ratings and reviews. So people can write reviews about you on Yelp or any of these other sources. to many businesses, this is a little bit scary. When before has a customer been able to have such a consequence over their interaction with you? And it's very important that you monitor these things, amplify the positive ones, repost them on your website, repost them on your Facebook page or your Twitter page, respond in a correct way to those that are maybe critical. There's a lot of good tools for that and a lot of good recommendations on how to best handle that. I won't get into the details of that today, but ratings and reviews are often sort of what people first think about when they think about their reputation. It's certainly a very important piece. Then we talk about mentions about a business. So yeah, I can write a 2 or a 4 or a 5 star on Google Plus Local about your business and tell the next customer how great you are or perhaps how challenging it was to work with you. But I also can go anywhere online, right? I could open up Twitter if I'm an active Twitter user and not even drop your handle. I could just say, hey, just came from Merle Norman, not a very friendly staff. Or locked at lunch, what's up? You know, different things like that. So these are what we call unstructured mentions. Okay, they might be web, they might be images. People could take a picture of your dirty bathroom. If you prefer auto service, they might take a picture of the repair work that you did. If you do lawn maintenance, they may take a picture of it, post it on Flickr, post it on some public forum for others to see. So we capture all these unstructured mentions about a business. We try to determine sentiment. So is somebody saying nice positive things or are they saying very critical things? So, you know, here's one for Panera Bread. I need a Panera Bread bowl full of mac and cheese stat. I guess that's good. That's good. But somebody might be really critical about Panera Breads and say something that's horrible. I won't read some of those. They might have a little bit of, Twitter might have a couple expletive words, a couple C sharps as I call them. But these are ones that you want to, you have to be aware of them. Certainly you want to take critical conversations offline as quickly as you can. You don't want to, it's not suggested to get into a responding cycle over a really irate customer or a disgruntled ex-employee or a competitor who's just trying to give you a couple shots, right? Get that offline. We can, again, there's a whole, I won't get into the details of how to deal with this, but obviously somebody that has 600 followers or 6,000 followers, you need to be much more aware of than somebody that has 6 followers, right? So tools need to be able to tell you the influence of somebody. On your owned social, so what you own your Facebook page, you own your Twitter page, you own your Foursquare. You want to make sure you track the conversations that are there because this essentially becomes your customer service ears that you need to listen and then respond to. So I'll get to that in a moment. Competition, do you have a big booming voice in your community for your direct competitors? So if you're a law firm and you're a personal injury lawyer or you're a dentist or you're a car dealer or you're an esthetician, whatever your interest might be, realtor, you name it, you can enter in your competition and say, do I have a really quiet voice or do I have a big booming voice? Businesses just, you're always curious to know how you might compare up against them. And then reports. You're busy in your business. You're not going to be sitting there behind a console looking at a computer screen all day. You're either going to be cutting lawns, doing dental work, selling houses, cutting hair. You get the idea. So delivering these intelligence tools, your reputation, your brand, it needs to come to you in a way that you can consume. And we already know the amount of usage we get out of our mobile device, so the alerts better come to you in a timely fashion that you can read on your mobile, that can trigger you to actually promote the positive, respond to those that require action. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the next steps. I'm going to kind of go quickly through this because I'm a little bit mindful of my time here. But you want to build fans. How do you build fans? You find people in your local community that are using social and republish their content. Engage with them. That will start to build fans for you. It doesn't matter whether you're an insurance agent or you're a realtor. Generate leads. This is a locksmith. If I typed lock, this is through the tool that's available through the TAC and Chronicle folks from us. But if I'm a locksmith and I just simply type in within 10 miles, locked keys in car, people will be tweeting that. I can respond in line and say, hey, if you're stuck, call me. Or it was 2 hours ago, hey, hope you got your keys out. Next time, give us a ring. But if I'm an insurance agent, no one goes on Twitter and says, looking to buy some house insurance. Right? So maybe look for other things that are triggering those insurance needs. Life-changing events will actually cause that. If somebody has a new baby, what do they start to think about? Life insurance. So no matter what industry you're in, there are triggers that will cause leads to potentially be, harvest value. Customer service, you must respond. Foursquare comments, there's 30 million users on Foursquare. I mentioned Merle Norman. They've had 5 people check into that cosmetic store across the street. I looked before I came up here. So Foursquare, while it doesn't have the massive usage of, say, Twitter and Facebook, be mindful of it. The comments by those 30 million users are the same as ratings and reviews. Be aware of those. You want to post onto your channels. You want to be able to schedule those posts. There's some excuses that some people have. Maybe you've used some of these excuses 2 years ago, not today, right? Everybody's doing this today. But you need to find the time. It's not a matter of setting aside a massive amount of time. It's setting aside some time. Have something to say. Mistakes will happen. You will find some trips. Here's some examples. This was a member of an ad agency who unfortunately wrote a tweet to 37,000 followers that he certainly didn't mean to send out on the company account. He was fired. Ad agency was fired. This can happen. When it happened at the Red Cross, one of their users thought that they were using a tool called Hootsuite. This went out to almost 900,000 followers of Red Cross. She thought it was going out to her 37 personal followers. But the way Red Cross handled this was a little bit more clever. They said, hey, we've deleted the rogue tweet. Be assured we're clean and sober. We've confiscated the keys, right? And then people started to talk. They said, hey, you know what? Blood deposits went up in this particular area, and this beer sold out that somebody got slithered on, right? So these are just things to, how not to. Oh, what can we do what kind of advice can we give in the market? Oh, call me by a realtor. Not a good approach. A little further down on that same list, realtors that said, hey, get qualified through a reliable lender. Choose an agent that works hard for you. So you want to be a part of the consultative, not the, selling. You want to become engaged with this in a way that comes across sincere and that you can provide insight and knowledge. You'll see this in the deck, some things that you can do to get started. There's some simple first steps that I think every business is wise to look at. When you look at the simple rules, I think a lot of common sense should just be at the forefront of your mind, and that is, don't sell, listen and respond, be a part of it, share, really be a part of the community. It really needs to be a two-way communication. It just can't be a megaphone that you're pumping content out in a way that's just sell. Warren Buffett says, if you lose $1 from my firm by bad decisions, I'll be understanding. But if you lose reputation for the firm, I'll be ruthless. So your reputation is something to protect. As business owners, you know this. Your brand, your reputation is your future. So with that, I say thank you and enjoy the rest of this afternoon.
So I sell display ads. I had a little trouble sleeping, so I'm living on chocolate and caffeine after coming back east. But thank you for having me. We're going to talk about targeted display advertising or data-driven display. I know that today we've had a lot of conversation about search, about social, and mobile, but there's this other medium that exists out there with a whole lot of web properties that are selling real estate, and that is display ad space to market your brand, either to promote your brand or to drive conversions, leads, sales, whatever that happens to be. Most people don't know this. When I ask the general question, some of the people in the morning session who are here probably know the answer to this, but most people don't really understand just how new the internet is in general. And I like to start at about 1 million foot level. I was in Jacksonville at the Jacksonville Times-Union paper last week. They could date the origins of the paper back 140 plus years. And then I started comparing that to, say, the automobile industry, And the first assembly line mass-produced automobile is 124 years old. So as a medium, that's over 100-year-olds. You look at companies that build on top of that medium, such as UPS. UPS is 94 years old. So who knows when the first website went up? Not the cheaters.
Could be a test question, I'm just.
Okay. So some people would say the origins date back to science fiction in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Others would say that the government did some research and funding in the 70s and 80s. But the first website went up on the first web server in August of 1991. In fact, the last commercial restriction was removed off the internet in 1995. So conservatively, we are in a business that's less than about 20 years old. And if you think about that, we're kind of in the Model T of what is possible in online advertising. Can you imagine what the automobile looked like 20 years after its invention? Well, that's where we're at on the internet, and as you can imagine, accelerating at a rapid pace. All this, in fact, if you've paid attention to any advertisement of late, in particular companies like IBM, you see things like big data. What the heck does big data mean? Well, as it pertains to you and online marketing, what it really means is that in 1995, somewhere around 2% of all two-way telecommunication was moving across the web. But by 2007, it was up to 97% of all two-way telecommunication was moving over the web. We were just laughing about the iPads. I've got 4 iPads in my house. I got a Generation 1, a Generation 2, and then we needed to be able to dial up when we weren't on Wi-Fi, so we got that version, and now we got a Mini just because we thought it might be different, right? So between that, the smartphones, the laptops, and the multiple browsers, it's quite an evolution and acceleration that's taken place in marketing. So what is the mission here? The idea was, if you think about display advertising used to be such that you would buy a ton of impressions on a website about a particular content or subject. So you would go to a website and say, gosh, this particular subject matter is about auto, so I want to buy a whole bunch of impressions because I really don't know anything about the audience who's coming to that website, but I know that I want people who are interested in auto, right? So you would buy all of these impressions because you didn't know very much information under the hopes that the ideal customer that you were looking for would arrive at that page and you'd market to them. For that reason, right, display advertising has been largely ineffective when compared to, say, the conversion rates of search. So one of the goals when building Engine 212 was how can we harness the massive amounts of big data that's taken place on the web to try to produce search-like effectiveness, but with the global reach of display. And to be clear, that's a very difficult process when you're dealing with the fact that you're dealing with audience behavior online and the actions that people are engaged in when you're looking to not only do that, but to protect your brand and at the same time maintain consumer privacy. To target people based on what they're doing, where they go, what they view, without sacrificing their individual liberties and privacy. Not an easy task. So, let me pander for a minute to my friends in search. Okay, I'm not a search marketer, but here's what I know about search. There used to be a whole lot of search engines. Alta Vista, Lighthouse, I don't know if any of these are ringing a bell for some of you who are of my age or better, but there used to be a whole bunch, right? And then a couple of guys getting their PhD out of Stanford changed the landscape, invented PageRank and kind of changed the game for everybody in search, and there was a massive consolidation. A lot of people don't know this, and I apologize if it got covered earlier, but the founders of Google were overwhelmed in their PhD studies in the first year of the company and offered to sell the company to Excite for $1 million. He turned them down flat. So, you know, one of those kind of clever stories about how people believe and they get so committed to their business models that they're not open to the new ideas and inventions and how it's changing the landscape. So today, I would argue that Google's been incredibly effective. They've got by far the lion's share of revenues. And if you look at online advertising in general, the vast majority of online ad dollars today go to search. Now, let's compare that to a couple of simple facts. Our friends from Google got up here today and said the average consumer's on a search engine for seconds. The last study I saw said 6 seconds. So the average consumer comes on a website, a search engine, they do a search, they're on there for 6 seconds, and then they're gone. In fact, another study that ComScore recently put out said that 94% of the time that somebody's online, they are somewhere other than a search engine. Okay, so where are they? On one of 11.93 billion pages of content. Okay, so that's why search marketing has been so effective, right? It is a focused audience going through a single source before it disperses into eternity, right? And that eternity is only getting bigger and more vast, right? So the general question becomes, Why has search marketing been so effective outside of the fact that they've got so much traffic passing through it when 94% of everybody who comes to a search engine ends up going somewhere else? Okay, I would say that it's for a handful of reasons. Number one, in a world of big data, is there any better data today than keywords? I would argue that the printing press changed the landscape for all of mankind. The television set forever changed how we view advertising. And the single greatest invention to come out in the last 20 years, the idea that people will go to a particular website, enter their thoughts into a box, hit a button, and ask to be marketed to, and pray that you get it right. They're begging for you to market to them. So if you think about that, keywords, the expression of intent, is probably the single greatest piece of intent data that exists on the web today. So they got great data, those guys. Number two, you know what? They have the ability to measure against that data, which is something the display world really has not been able to do up until the recent years, which is they can not only allow you to market to people based on the words they're entering into a box, but they can tell you how different people are responding to those different keywords that you're bidding on, right? So we use the example of pizza. Thank you for using that. You set me up nicely. So there's a big difference, right, between somebody searching for pizza coupon at 4 o'clock in the afternoon as opposed to somebody searching for best pizza in Atlanta. One person might be in the market to buy a pizza in the next few seconds. The next person might be in the market to maybe take out-of-town guests in the next 2 weeks to a pizza location. They send two completely different messages. So if you're marketing to those two consumers, you get different response rates, different messaging, and because you can see that, you never lose sight of what was the data that triggered the impression, you can optimize to it, you can evolve your messaging, so forth and so on. The third reason why search has been so effective is because not only can they have the great data, not only can they measure that data, but they can actually control that data, which means, you know what, this keyword, pizza coupon, is worth more to me than best pizza in Atlanta, and I'm willing to bid more for that keyword. Or I'm willing to add certain keywords, or I'm willing to remove certain keywords. So there's incredible amounts of control around that data. Everybody still with me? All right. So how much search is taking place on the web? Who knows, right? So the last conservative study I saw said something like 100 billion searches are taking place, and of course that number is accelerating. Who knows how in the world they would begin to measure that? But here's a little bit of a misnomer. Not all search is taking place through major search engines. I would say that that is the origin of search, that is the beginning of search, right? So if you think about this, if you go to Yahoo and you were to type in lumber, right, and then you click on Home Depot, when you go to Home Depot, you might type in pine treated 2x4, right? Or you might type in flu remedies and then click on WebMD from a link in Google, and then once you're in WebMD, you might type in any number of things to try to refine your search. So literally search is taking place all over the web. So you've got a percentage of search that's taking place in these big search engines, then you get people disseminated across 12 billion pages of internet, and more search continues to take place. And that search is actually pretty granular, and it's a way of basically saying, here are the keywords and what I'm looking for. Oh, by the way, you got me almost home. I'd like to refine that keyword search even further to get even more specific. So it's really good data. So the data that's coming out of the big search engines is great data, and the data that's taking place on the web is great data. Now, what's interesting about this is the websites that are on the web are the very sites that are trying to sell you display advertising. Okay? But they turned out that in addition to selling real estate on their sites, they also have another valuable asset. The audiences that come to their website. The data associated with those audiences that come to the website. Where did those people come from? What searches did they perform? What content are they reading? This data is data that can be monetized alongside the display inventory, and they partner with companies to pass that data so that that data can be used so that when you're buying display impressions, you no longer have to buy impressions in bulk, but when somebody lands on a website, it is no longer defined that that person is worth a lot because they're on a page about auto. In fact, if I was going to look at a Michael Kors watch at Nordstrom's, and I didn't buy it, but I looked at it, and then I left, and then I went to a 10-year-old blog site that's got only 100 people who visited it. People would say, well, gosh, that website and that inventory is not worth a lot. Well, if they just did that search 5 minutes ago, and prior to doing that search, they also visited a couple of other locations and looked at watches and performed different reviews on watches, and then they landed on that site, how much do you think that person's worth to Nordstrom's at that point in time? A lot. So, based on the sheer massive data that they have behind that user, they've determined that that isn't a user worth buying an impression for. At the very same token, that very same user may land on a watch site where they would typically buy lots of impressions and find out that that's not a user that they want to bid on at all because they were looking at, say, sports-related watches, which they're not in the market of selling or something like that. Everybody still with me? All right. So, when it comes to data-driven display, not to be too technical, unfortunately it's a little technical, it all boils down to audience data. And at Engine 212, one of the very first things that has taken place is that Engine 212 has partnered with literally thousands of websites across the web through different exchanges and networks, which is an accumulation of websites. So for instance, Google's got several thousand properties and Microsoft's got several thousand properties. And so these sites are passing that information and that data so that whenever somebody lands on a particular website, you know a ton about that information to make a decision about whether you want to market to them. Okay? So what a lot of people don't do is they don't share with you exactly how that data is acquired. And it can be acquired in a number of ways, but I'm going to show you something, and I'm going to talk fast, and it's going to do the borderline creepy versus magical. But I want to share with you I want to share with you a little bit about what's taken place in an average ad call on the web. So this is a search engine you guys know all too well. And in this particular search, somebody did a search for New York hotels. Obviously, the paid search ads came up, the organic search ads came up. But what you didn't know is whether this was taking place in Google, Yahoo, Bing, whether it was on a Safari browser or a Firefox, whether it was taking place on a cell phone, whether it was taking place on a tablet or a laptop. Whenever somebody scrolls down and clicks on whatever they're going to click on. And in this case, they're going to click on TripAdvisor. What's interesting about that is not always, but often, the keywords that people searched on get embedded in that URL string, and when they land on that publisher site, the keywords they search on go with them. Okay? So, allow me to take a few minutes to talk really, really fast and tell you what takes place. The average website loads in about 50 milliseconds. So if TripAdvisor is an example, as a site that Engine 212's partnered with who may pass data back, it goes something like this. That user lands on the TripAdvisor page, 50 milliseconds it takes for the page to load. In the first 5 milliseconds, we say, have we ever seen this browser before? If we haven't, we create a unique ID that's non-personally identifiable. Okay? We parse out what site did you just come from, what's the referring site. We parse out what keywords did you search on, what are the keywords you searched on to get there. We crawl the page from top to bottom for brand safety. We classify the page contextually to tell you what the subject matter is on the page, and we crawl for exact match phrases within the context in the first 5 milliseconds of a 50 millisecond page load. We take all of that audience data, which is great, where they came from, what they're viewing, how they got there, and we attach it to that ID. Okay? And we store it on a server. So what does that mean? It means that if you're a local business and you're looking for people who are in your marketplace, who are in the in intent mode to take some sort of action, buy a pizza, buy a car, find a dry cleaning service, whatever it happens to be, you can upload keywords, or the folks at Engine 212 can build keywords, for instance, much like a search marketing program, and they can begin to target people with display ads the 94% of the time that they're off the search engines based on the fact that they know what they searched on when they were on the search engines. Pretty clever, right? Okay. So we're collecting all this data. And this data is taking place, by the way, on a rolling 30-day basis. And so the average consumer, by the way, in Engine 212 gets seen on average about 1,200 times a month. Okay? So that means that we've seen you on your phone, on your laptop, or whatever, migrating across the web on average about 1,200 times a month. That's a lot of data. And you know what's really interesting about this is because when you start getting into targeted display advertising, the folks at Engine 212, for instance, can place a pixel on your website, a conversion pixel on your website. And anybody could tell you what was the last search somebody did before they came to your website. There's very few companies, by the way, that have the ability to tell you what was the last 100 searches somebody did before they came to your website. And that's part of the modeling that takes place behind the scenes in data-driven display advertising, because when people are converting on your website, we're able to look back over that 30-day history of the people who are coming to your website, and we're able to say, what are the sites they visit? What are the keywords that they searched on? What is the content they were reading? And by the way, Do we see other people in my marketplace within a certain geographic radius that fit that profile, who visit the same sites, who are performing the same searches, who haven't been to this website? And can we build out that audience and begin targeting display ads so that I'm serving impressions to the people who are doing the right actions and not serving an impression to the people who aren't? That's what's taking place today. And it's all courtesy of data. So to kind of bring home this idea of data, Engine 212's got a lot of it, okay? We've got about 600 million unique profiles. You're telling yourself, gosh, that's like more than the population of the US, and here's why. The UID, or the unique ID that we have on consumers as they migrate across the web, is browser specific. So we have an ID for you on your mobile device, we have an ID for you on your desktop, we have an ID for you on your laptop, so forth and so on. And so the creepy versus magical part about this is that wherever you are performing activities online, wherever your customer is performing activities online, that data is being acclimated and accumulated in a non-personally identifiable way so that you can access that information on a real-time basis when we're serving display ads to get you the most out of your display ad campaigns. Pretty cool. The other thing in terms of data that exists out there, by the way, is that there's a tons of offline data. I've just shared with you the amount of online data, but I recently upgraded my insurance on Allstate. I can't do the dog. I can't do that on Allstate. And Allstate said I can get a discount if I take this little blue device and plug it into a certain part of my vehicle so that they can monitor my driving habits, right? Isn't it interesting the data that they now have on me? They know where I live. They know my name. They know the vehicle I drive. They know the speeds. They know where I'm going. They know how fast I brake. They know when I'm stopped, when I'm busy. They know everything about me, right? And do you think that they use that data exclusively in-house? No. Data is revenue, right? But that data, by the way, is available to you as a marketer. Can you imagine for a minute if you were a local small business who had a repair facility and said that within a 10-mile radius of my facility, I want to target people who own, not lease their vehicle with certain driving patterns, so forth and so on, and that data was available, would that be valuable to you? Of course it would be. Okay, so there's all kinds of offline demographic variables such as race, gender, veteran status, degree status, all kinds of information that can be rolled up to IP addresses to target individuals demographically. So I know that this is a ton of information. It's going to get a little worse. Okay? All right, so you've got data. And by the way, in terms of data, Engine 212's got a lot of it, but you know who's got the best data outside of search engines? You do. Your data, the people who are coming to your very website. They've already come to your website, therefore you own that data. You know where they came from. You know how they got there potentially. And you have the ability to know whether they took the action that you needed them to take once they were on your website or not. And you have the ability to market to those individuals knowing they've already been aware of you, they've already expressed some interest or intent into you. So the very best data that's available to you is first-party data, and that comes in the area of retargeting. Everybody ever heard that term? The ability to target people who come to your website and then left. So leveraging your first-party data, your audience that's coming to your pre-existing site is known as site retargeting. Then you've got all of this other data, which we would call highly intent-based data, searches performed, content viewed, so forth and so on. Now, here comes the interesting part. With Engine 212, what they've done is they've said, not only when you advertise are you no longer advertising just on your local newspaper, but because Engine 212 is essentially setting on top of these marketplaces online, we're tapping into more than 13 exchanges, which is a term I wouldn't expect you to fully understand if you haven't been exposed to it, but think of it like this. It's sitting on top of about 1 million websites, about 1 trillion ad calls, and we see when somebody lands on a website, they send a signal to Engine 212 that says, do you know this person? Does somebody who you work with want to market to this person? How often does that happen? About 400,000 times per second. That's a lot, right? So the good news is when somebody comes to your website and they leave, right, you have a pretty good chance of reaching them in Engine 212. In addition to that, if you want to target somebody outside of what you're doing in search based on what you know they're searching on, you have the ability to reach them. Because no longer are people just going to one source for their information. I mean, if I was looking for a car today, I might do a search on Google. I might go to a Yahoo specific page. I might go to Edmunds. I might go to Kelley Blue Book. I might go to a local dealer site. I might go to Auto Trader. Who knows where the heck I'm going to go? I'm going to go everywhere, right? And by the way, what do we say, 10.7 pages of research? So you heard it first, right? Google says, it must be right, Google says people are researching 10.7 pages, they're going everywhere. So if you want you to think about that, you competed with them at search, 6 seconds, you had one opportunity, now they leave, you have an opportunity to market to them 10 more times, 12 more times in the next 2 hours, 10 hours, 24 hours, 1 week. And then to be able to use data and analytics to know whether those impressions are getting you the kind of return that you want. That's pretty impressive. Now, the newest evolution in Engine 212 is the addition of the Facebook Exchange. I don't know how much you guys know about the Facebook Exchange, but it looks something like this. It basically means that now when people land on Facebook, they send the same ad call to Engine 212. So if somebody in your local community did a search for keywords that are important to you, and then they leave and go to Facebook, Facebook sends us a message, and we get the opportunity to put an ad in front of that consumer when they're on Facebook. And oh, by the way, I'm not trying to say Facebook's better than Google or anything else, because Google's an incredible search engine. People are on that an average of 6 seconds. You know what the average time on Facebook is? My daughter hasn't logged off that page in like 3 weeks. Okay? And oh, by the way, so if you were to take all the websites that exist on the web that people are tapping into, and then you throw in Facebook, it essentially doubled the impression opportunity that existed. That's the expansive reach of Facebook today. It's touching almost every demographic, almost every age group, and oh, by the way, every single impression's above the fold. Every single ad impression that gets fired is going to be seen. And the average time on the site for many people, maybe not your particular work of business, oftentimes on their phone or on their laptop computer, it stays open almost all day long and just continues to refresh and get visited. So right now, today, with Engine 212, in addition to reaching millions of websites, if you wanted to market to consumers outside of your search engine with display ads, you have the ability to reach them on Facebook based on the behaviors that they're engaging in online within minutes of them doing so, which is pretty cool. Okay? So, let's talk about the productization of this, okay? I don't know that your local Engine 212 rep will go into this much detail, but I want to give you just an overview of the kinds of things that can be done with this data. So if you think about the World Wide Web as I do, and I think about every single little town that exists on planet Earth as a website, and then I think of every continent as a different ad network, or every state as a different ad network. So Google represents 10,000 plus websites, Yahoo represents all these sites. So you're sitting out here on an island. It's almost impossible to predict that the people who come to your website or that the people who are searching for the products or services that you offer, once they do that, where are they going to go? You have absolutely no idea. And so if you were to go out and to buy display advertising online and go through some sort of mechanism that is not tapped into all of this inventory, you would have to go and do a deal with this network and then go do an agreement with this network and go do an agreement with this network, and it becomes quite overwhelming. Okay? So we got pretty impressive reach with Engine 212. In addition to that, I've been talking to you about targeting people based on the keywords they're searching on. We refer to this as search retargeting. And it's simply that. It's simply the idea that you can capture the information that people are searching on, and you can then begin targeting them with display ads as they migrate across the web and bring them back to your site and convert. Okay? And really, I opened up my presentation by saying I wanted to kind of bring the world, the effectiveness of search with the global reach of display. Search retargeting is probably the single greatest new audience acquisition technique to come online since search, but certainly for display advertising, because it's harnessing that data. And a couple things about this. You have the ability to reach those people who had one opportunity to market to for 6 seconds significantly more often, which is incredibly important. The other thing that this does is there are certain terms in search that are just incredibly high cost. Okay? I don't know what it is for your particular local business, but I always use the example mesothelioma. Anybody who's ever had any experience in search knows that that's an incredibly expensive term on a cost per click basis. Could be upwards of $30, $40, $50, but there are certainly plenty of $5 and $10 and $20 CPC terms in search. And you're paying an incredibly high price for that one opportunity to convert a user, right? So if you think about what Engine 212 does, it allows you to market to a particular consumer multiple times who you know engaged on that very same search. What could have been a $30 or $40 cost per click CPC search keyword might be pennies whenever you're targeting them in display. Another thing that you should consider, and this is a tactic that's being used by some of the biggest brands in the country right now, and you'll start to notice this now that we've had this conversation, okay? And that is, there's such thing in search as a quality score restriction, okay? And I don't pretend to be a search expert, but it basically says something like this. If I'm Ford, I'm not bidding aggressively on all of Chevy's terms. And the reason why is because when people go to a search engine and they type in Chevy, they expect to see information on Chevy, right? So if you were to bid aggressively on those competitor terms in the search engine would essentially punish your ranking, okay? They would essentially say that's not the game we want to play. There's no such thing as a quality score restriction in display. So one of the things that big brands are doing right now is they're bidding aggressively and building out their competitors' branded terms, their competitors' brands and services, such that when people are on search engines, they're competing on their own terms, but if they're searching on your competitors' products or services or locations, the minute they leave that search engine, you want to engage them in a discussion with the display ad. And it's an incredibly effective tactic, okay? Next time you see a automotive display ad, ask yourself if you searched on a competitor branded term. Okay? If you do this right, guys, it can impact all of your channels. Because when people respond to a display ad, they not only click on a display ad, but they're likely to say, wait a second, I want to go check out this offer, so they browse directly to the site, so organics go up. They go in and they perform a search, so page search on branded terms goes up. It has the ability to produce lift across the board, and it can be used for both branding and conversion purposes, so it's very multi-purpose. What happens if somebody doesn't do a search? By the way, this happens in the automotive space all the time. It actually happens in the travel space quite a bit, because if I'm looking for a hotel in Maui, I'm probably not going to go and search for a hotel in Maui on a search engine. How much money is being spent by Expedia and Kayak and all these guys to market to you every day to say that I'm the place to go to, for instance, to find that information? Everybody's competing to bring you directly to their site. So there's an incredible amount of search that's being done on the web today that actually doesn't involve keywords, where people are actually browsing directly to sites, and then when you go to the site, it says, oh, there's a tab for hotels. And when I get to the tab for hotels, it goes, oh, hot destinations, Hawaii. And you can navigate directly to the information you want and maybe never even enter a keyword. Okay? And there's an increasing number of that taking place today. So what happens is, in addition to targeting people based on, for instance, the keywords they're searching on, you can upload very specific phrases, or Engine 212 can build audiences based on very specific phrases so that when people land on pages where they see those exact matches in the content, they can serve an ad. And it's actually pretty impressive in terms of what it can do, because it used to be that, that display companies could target a jewelry site who they know somebody was on a page about watches. But the problem with that is, are there sports watches and there are luxury watches. There are $100,000 watches and there are $5 watches. So if you're marketing a $500 watch to somebody who's looking for a jogging watch, right, that's a wasted impression. But if you were to upload all the makes and models of all the brands that compete with your particular make and model, then you could particularly serve an ad on a page where you knew that model was being discussed. And in fact, it gets even worse today, even better today, right, because they can start to look at things semantically to say, not only was it mentioned, but was it mentioned in a positive way? Or was it mentioned in a negative way, so forth and so on. Here's another example. Cruises. It used to be when you bought display advertising, you could buy impressions on travel sites. And in fact, one of the things they could do is they say, I can serve impressions on a travel site, and I can do it on subcategory cruises, so that if you're a local travel agency and you're trying to market cruises, I can make sure your ad impression is marketed on a site about cruises. Well, problem with that is there's Alaskan cruises. There's Baltic Sea cruises, there's Caribbean cruises, right? So if somebody's looking for an Alaskan cruise and you're serving a Carnival Caribbean cruise line, that's a wasted impression. But if I were to upload very specific phrases, such as Glacier Cruise, such as certain ports of interest, such as specific competitor ships that compete in the origin that I'm going at, I can ensure that whenever I bid on an impression in real time, that I'm only serving my ads on sites that are an exact match for the people I'm trying to look at. Because the massive data around consumer audience behavior is accelerated at a rapid pace. With Engine 212, they have access to this data, they can build custom audiences, and they can begin targeting people, and on a very granular level, look at the data associated with that audience behavior to try to make sure they're getting the most for those impressions. Okay, so just a couple more things and then I'm going to wrap up. This is a picture of my neighborhood. And if you notice anything about my neighborhood, in this particular section, there's one road that comes in and one road that goes out, so it's essentially landlocked. So even though there's 500 homes plus in the neighborhood, there's 100 or so, and there's absolutely nothing in common with the people in that section with the people one street over. And it used to be that in display advertising, you were limited to zip codes, for instance. And if you know anything about politics, you know that from one end to a zip code to another, there may be absolutely nothing in common. Okay? And so from a business perspective, this is incredibly valuable information, because The IP technology or geo IP technology that exists in mobile and display today basically says that you can use essentially the modems or the information, the IPs associated with the device to pinpoint more granularly where people are located so that you can kind of fence that off, if you will, for your display advertising purposes. A couple of clever examples that I've seen recently that I love to share are as follows. In Charlotte, North Carolina, they were opening a new location for a particular restaurant chain. It's directly across the street from the Bank of America corporate headquarters. There's 30,000 employees in the building. So they said, I want to obtain the IP ranges for Bank of America computers within this particular geographic area, and they launched a targeted display ad campaign in the hours preceding and meal hours at lunch and dinner over a period of time, and they basically served the building. Pretty cool. What about affluent business travelers? I had somebody recently came to us and they said we went to and dug through the data and we were able to produce the IP ranges for the GoGo in-flight IP ranges. So we knew that we were targeting people when we knew they were in flight. Pretty cool, right? So we know that you get called on by a lot of companies, okay? And I don't pretend to have all the companies up here. We know that you have options. I want you to understand that Engine 212 is not the first company to use data behind their display ad serving. But I do want to fundamentally tell you behind the scenes, and again, I apologize for getting technical, but I want you to understand what this is doing technically that the other ones haven't been able to do. And that is as follows. Typically, when somebody engages in a behavior, such as performing a search, when that data gets passed to display companies, that data gets put into a segment. Okay? So somebody searched on one of 100 terms, they take that and they put it in a segment. In this case, they searched on a whole bunch of different Michael Kors terms, so we put them in a jewelry and Tinder segment for a jewelry store. We say, hey, we're going to market to people in your local market who we know searched on jewelry. The problem is that once that data gets put into the segment, you lose track of what was the actual keyword they searched on. Did they search on this? Did they search on that? And all the visibility and all the optimization is to the group. With Engine 212, what they've done is we've got an unstructured data technology that is not only collecting the data, but I said that we wanted to replicate the effectiveness of search. It means behind every single ad impression that gets served, we can see what was the data element behind that user's behavior that triggered the impression. What was it that they searched on? What site was it that they visited? What content was it that they viewed? So that we can see which of those data elements are performing. So guess what? Just like search, we can add keywords, remove keywords, so forth and so on. We can dynamically change those audiences on the fly. Okay? Another thing is, and I said this earlier, the most important piece of information when it comes to data, and if you don't remember anything else, Tony's getting his pen ready. If you don't remember anything else about data, know this: time defines data's worth. So in other words, the example we gave earlier is somebody searches on pizza coupon at 4 o'clock. If you had that information at 4:05, that's good information. If you had that information 28 days after you did the search, it's okay information. I also use the example of driving around a cliffside highway and rounding the corner, and you see a pig with a half second to spare in the middle of the road, and you veer off and you go off the cliff. That was great data. You knew that there was a pig in the road, and there's not a thing in the world you could do about it. You still went off the cliff. But if you'd have had that information a little bit earlier with a sign that says there's a pig in the road 100 feet ahead, you might have slowed down, you might have veered, right? So the timing of that information is everything. Most of the people who sell targeted display advertising, they take all of that audience data, they put it in a segment, and you lose track of not only what data element that they do, what search they perform, but can you just tell me when they did it? Did they search on it 5 minutes ago? Did they search on it 10 minutes ago, a week ago, 2 weeks ago? You basically get this audience that we just say, we know they engaged in some behavior over the last 30 days. At Engine 212, they can serve ads on your behalf to targeted audiences, and for every impression we serve, for the people who are clicking and converting those ads, we can see what was it that they did, and by the way, when did they do it? So we can find out, for instance, that if we're targeting display ads to people who searched on pizza coupons, we only want to serve ads to them for an hour. But you know what? For people who searched on best pizza in Phoenix, maybe I want to serve them for a week. And they convert completely differently. Make some sense? This is what's taking place behind the scenes. So the final slide that I'm going to put up here, if I can figure out a way to get it back up, is I want you to think about data like this. And I apologize for leaving you on a confusing note, but All of this is data. The ability to target people based who come to your site and leave is site retargeting. The ability to target people based on what they're doing online on Facebook. The ability to target people based on what they're searching on. The ability to target people based on keywords on the page. So forth and so on. All of this is tactics. At Engine 212, if you said, you know what, I've got a small local business and my ideal audience is this, just know that they've got access to all of this data, over 600 million unique profiles, and they can build an audience for you, and they'll begin targeting by building an audience based on keywords people have searched on, sites they have visited, subject matter they have read, and they'll begin targeting them with display ads on your behalf, and based on the ads that are converting and clicking, they will begin to refine that data pool, refine that audience to serve more to the ones who are converting, to serve less to the ones who aren't, to remove data elements that aren't converting, and oh, by the way, the longer that display campaign runs on your website, the more data that's being accumulated about what's working on your site and about the audience behaviors that people are engaged in prior to coming to your site, which means the campaign gets smarter and smarter and smarter. This is where data-driven display advertising is going, and because the data is becoming the same kind of control that you're used to seeing with search, this is why many people say that search is on track, that why they say display is on track to potentially outpace search and revenue. Will it happen? I don't know. But the data differences and the level of refinement in the data used to target for display advertising and what the level of data and the level of refinement that's happening on search are starting to look an awful lot alike. That's all I got. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Now I have to bring it with energy because he put that out there for me, right?
So did it.
So I'm glad to be here today because we actually talk so much about social. Did y'all all get that? Did y'all get all that search engine marketing and optimization? It's a lot of information. So I'm gonna go a little old school on y'all. Everybody doing email still? Yeah, okay, all right. So we're gonna talk about the power of email marketing because it is still effective, it's not going anywhere. And then I'm gonna give you some great 10 strategies that you need to do on a regular basis. How many people in the audience are doing email marketing and not just using Outlook, but some kind of email service provider? Anybody? Doesn't have to be Constant Contact, I won't hold it against you. Okay, all right, sounds good. Well, the information I'm going to share with you today is for any email service provider. Some of the tools may be a little different, but you can apply these tactics to all. We will be providing these slides, but I'm on email, Facebook, and Twitter. How many people in the room are on Facebook? Raise your hands high. All right, Twitter. Okay, LinkedIn. Okay, so I say those top 3 because they're the most used, but of course, there's so many more, and we'll talk about that. But marketing has changed the game. Traditional marketing was pretty much where you find all these customers, you convert, and then you want to keep a few. Well, we don't want that. We want to keep just as many as we find, so that funnel has been flipped. We find customers by targeting our marketing, and then we convert them, and then we want to keep them for a long period of time because we realize that it is easier to keep an existing customer than going out and find new customers. So keep those people happy. If they're loyal to you, you want to stay engaged with them and have them share your messaging to their other prospects or their colleagues and friends. Anybody didn't check their email today? Anybody? No? All right. Why email? Because it's still effective. It's pretty much the first thing that I do every morning. Before I even get my day started, what am I going to do? Who do I have to respond to? And so it is the most effective tool. And it's you get the most return on your dollar. Because if you're doing direct mail, which can be very costly, if you're sending out any kind of material, making it colorful, making it the right size, it can cost you a lot of money. So what you want to do is find the way to get in front of your audience on the platforms that works best for them. If that is email, great. If that's face-to-face, using a phone, you still want to make sure they're using the right platforms as well as social media. And it's probably gone up a little bit more, but it says about $44 on the return, which is a return on your investment for every dollar that's spent. That's still a pretty good return on your investment. You want to be able to get the most money without having to spend the most. So, anybody in the room like spam? Nobody? I'm getting one person, just one. Okay. I ask this question all the time, and then I'll leave the room and somebody will spam me. And so we try to teach you. I'm thinking, I just told them not to spam me. But literally, spam is when you get that email, you know you didn't join anybody's mailing list. They found you, or somebody decided to put all the about 20 people's email in 2, and then they decided to send you information. You don't want that. Our emails are already full of information. We have too many emails. I'd like to get emails on my own terms. So how do we do that? We ask people. We let them know. If I meet you today, I know we met in the bathroom, but we didn't shake hands or anything, right? What's your name?
Melissa,
So Melissa, what company are you with?
the Chronicle.
The Chronicle. Okay, the Chronicle is taking over the Southeast. So Melissa, if I ask you, you know, we exchange business cards, and I want you to join my mailing list. I'm asking explicit permission from her instead of me just getting a business card from you and then I add you to my mailing list. That's actually spam, because if I didn't tell you that I have some kind of communication to send you and I just add you to my list and you didn't know about it, that's spam. And it could be very offensive because you already get too many emails. Maybe you didn't want mine. But if I let you know that I do emails and I choose to do it on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis, she may be more apt to receiving my email. So you want to get permission from your people. If you didn't have that conversation in the bathroom or elsewhere, what you want to do when you exchange that card, just send a regular email and just have a link to your email address, to your join your mailing list, and have that person opt in, or just let them know you like to add them. So keep that in mind, and don't spam me today. What is email marketing? It's really providing professional communications to a targeted audience, giving them relevant information. So when I say a targeted audience, everybody in this room is not going to be your customer, and that's okay. But find out who that customer is. We talked about lifestyles and different demographics and getting to know your audience. It's really key to know what your customers like, what their interests are, so you can send them information that's relevant. You also want to make sure that it's so targeted that if you have 3 different products, maybe it's 3 different customers, get to know the interests of that particular customer and send the messaging to them. If you send it too broad, people are going to feel like they don't know you. They're not interested in what you have. And we'll talk a little bit more about what's that relevant information. And if you don't know, ask. So just a couple examples. We actually have about 40 new templates that are mobile friendly. So the great thing is you don't have to do any conversion. You want to make sure that your campaigns can be viewed on a mobile device, because 38% of people are using their device to read their emails. And so you want to make sure that it's opted for your mobile device. And then there's so many different formats. We actually have, I said 450 templates, but you pick a bundle, a short bundle, which we'll get to, and you use them effectively. So what are those 10 strategies? These are very basic. You can get them, you can start them today, and one is setting up your account properly. Those for people who have LinkedIn, you want to fill out your profile the correct way, 100%. Everything that you do, you want to fill it out properly. So when you set up your account properly, everything runs smoothly. Yesterday we did a session, people in a class, we did a hands-on training session in Thomasville, and most people have been using the product for years, and things that weren't set up right, they was like, oh, why that doesn't work. It's not going to work right if you don't set up your account. So I'm just going to show you a couple of screenshots of things that need to be done, which is one, your settings page. That's just basic company information. Maybe your website, your phone number is really critical. You want people to call you, right? You also want to personalize your emails. So when I say personalization, maybe your signature, a picture, if people do business with you, they want to recognize your face. You want to include all that. Your physical address of your office so they'll know where to find you. You also want to set up your library. All images should be clickable to something, a website, an article. It helps improve your search engine marketing. So you want to make sure that you actually have some kind of link to your images. And make sure you put a description to your image as well. And then your contacts. Really, this is the #1 challenge that people have a hard time with. When you're building a relationship with someone, you just don't want to get their email address. You want to get their first name, their last name, a company name if that's applicable to you, and a phone number. Because if that person changed their email address or it doesn't go through because there's a filter, you want to find a way to call that person and ask for the correct email address. And also you want to segment your list. You're going to have people that join your mailing list for specific reasons, topics, or interests, and then you want to have categories in your list segmented by maybe networking groups. So if I belong to a Chamber of Commerce or ACBB, which is Atlanta Business Conventions Bureau, or a networking group like BNI, or the Legend Club's members, you want to be able to target your messaging to those people appropriately. Everybody's not going to fall in the same group. So spend a lot of time with your contacts, because if you don't have an email with a name, it's going to be dear value customer. And does anybody know what that really means? How much they really value you? That they couldn't get your first name, right? So you don't like it, right? So you just ask for that information. And then I just wanted to show you that you can have your lists broken down so many ways. I don't care if you have 10 people in one list and 2,000 in another, make sure it's segmented properly. I actually just showed a sample of mine. I have over 3 different categories because I may have done presentations to different markets or different groups, and therefore you want to make sure your message is targeted. You don't want to just keep everybody in general interest. You want to define it as precise as you can. And then you also want to have it join your mailing list. A lot of people miss this step as well. If you direct people or you want people to join your mailing list, send them to a page where they can pick their interests. I broke this down. I took Join Constant Contact as a customer in 2004. Then I became a business partner with them in 2007. And then for the last 2 years, I've been with them as the regional development director. And the person who had this role before me only had 2 categories. You either a customer or you a trialer. Well, Constant Contact is not even more. We're not even email marketing anymore. We're online survey, we're social campaigns, we're event spot, we have a single platform, we have save local deals. And so everybody may not be interested in just email marketing. So what I had to do is find out a little bit more about my customers. Are you interested in email marketing? You want advanced email marketing? Do you want social media? Do you want event spot? Are you a B2B customer or a B2C customer? Those messages are going to be different. So I started asking specific questions so then I can narrow down how I reach that particular client or customer. And then you want to customize a welcome page. This kind of just seals the deal when somebody joins your mailing list, that you welcome them and say, you know what, thank you for joining my mailing list. We're going to protect your information. We're not going to share it. And you can add some different links, maybe to a sales sheet or something else that you have, so people can get to learn a little bit more about your company. And then you want to set objectives. Why are you doing this? I mean, everybody's working. You want to earn money, take care of your bills, pay your family, nonprofit, create awareness. You have to have some kind of objectives and goals. So think about why you need to stay in communication with your audience. Inform them. Drive purchases, motivate them to come to an event. You maybe want to reward a VIP client who's been taking care of, has been a loyal customer for years. You want them to come back. So, you may want to give them a special message than your regular customers. So think about how you want to use it, and then ask for referrals. That's one of the #1 ways to get business. Ask your existing customers that you're happy with or happy with you, you know what, do you have any other colleagues or friends or cousins, aunts, whatever it may be, that can also purchase your services or your products? And then we talked about setting expectations. Know when you want to send your emails. Just don't have some kind of, I'm going to wake up today and send an email campaign. You need to have a strategy. Most people do. They just say, I'm going to send out something today. Have a plan. We get too many emails as it is. Can you agree to that? You have way too many emails in your inbox? So if I can say, yes, on Mondays I know I'm going to get this particular campaign, or maybe on the 1st and 15th I'm going to get a certain campaign, I may opt in for that, and then I'm looking for that communication, as opposed to you randomly sending it whenever you want to. Also, you want to know what kind of information. I can do a newsletter on a monthly basis, but maybe I do a Wednesday promotion. Maybe I do something at the end of the month. You can mix it up and just know you have a consistent schedule that people are going to look for it. I actually was with Bentley Atlanta the other day. I'm aspiring to get a Bentley one day. And got a lot of teaching to do at that point. But literally, they were just sending out random things. And they were actually using it saying, hey, here's this Bentley, $185,000. Come on and check it out. That's a certain kind of customer, correct? Anybody in here willing to spend $185,000 for a car? I can travel the world on that. So you have to know who your audience is that you're going to send that to. But literally what they found was people didn't open up those emails. They don't want to be sold, okay? They know what kind of car they're interested in. And wind up finding they had 5 different kind of cars, sedan, coupes, GT, GTCs, all this. And every customer for Bentley was a little different. So we had to break down their list a little bit more thoroughly. And then I said, just don't sell the car. Educate them about the car. I did not know, because I don't have a Bentley, that their leather seats are bull high. Did you know that? Bull hide, not cow hide, but bull hide. And so I said, so what they decided to do was do Friday Facts. Friday Facts is talking about how the car is produced, the quality of the materials, they try to justify why they spend $185,000 for it. That's their lowest end car. So what you want to do is break down and educate your customer why they should buy a Bentley over something else that may be an Audi or whatever, maybe a little lower than a Bentley. So you want to use and educate your audience. You want to set expectations. If you set out a monthly newsletter, how often should it go out, Melissa? Right. That's key. Some people think, oh, 30 days. Right. Well, because here's what happens. People say my newsletter is monthly, and then it gets so busy. And then they're like, oh, we didn't have time to do it. But people are signing up for that. So if you realize that, you know what, I can only do it quarterly, you make adjustments. Let your people know, you know what, business is great. It's going. We're going to actually have to move our newsletter to quarterly instead of monthly. Keep your customers informed. Abide by the CAN-SPAM Act. We want that to happen. And when you think about sending out your email, you want people to know, do they know me? And are they going to find my information relevant? The quality list. This is the biggest thing I get a lot because most people say, oh, I want to buy a list. And don't do it, okay? That is spam. No matter how many people say, oh, we have approved third-party lists. No, there's no such thing. And so it's a trap. And what it'll do, it'll shut you down. And then you'll have a hard time being with any email service provider. So I'd rather you grow it organically than try to reach and buy a list of 5,000 people and then try to send out your message. So to build that quality list, there's so many ways to do that. Your email signature, your incoming and outgoing calls, networking at events like this. I always tell my attendees, when you come into my room, I want to hear noise. Meaning you should be talking to the people next to you, walk around the room, because if you're trying to do this online marketing, it starts here, face to face. You're trying to build relationships with people online, why would you not talk to the person right next to you, get to know them? They may have 2,000 followers, right? Or 10,000 fans on Facebook that you can kind of plug into. You won't know that if you don't communicate. So use the phone, events and networking meetings, your email signature, drive people to join your mailing list that way. We also have a physical book or pad that you may want to have at your front desk or office. The only problem with that is people's penmanship. Everybody doesn't have great handwriting, which is why these devices are becoming so important, because if you ask me to write something, sometimes I can't even read what I wrote because I'm so used to typing. So then you also want to have an online presence. We actually have widgets and little things that you can put on every page of your website to drive people to join your mailing list. Also connect those, there's a lot of app connects with Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn that can go to your Facebook page to your email and vice versa. So you want to set those up. So if you only have fans or followers, you can also connect them to your email that they weren't even aware of. And then Pinterest. There's so many different sites out here. We don't talk about all of them, but the key is you want to use all of these to start building your list. What happened? Okay. Like I thought I was doing a Beyonce thing where all the power is about to go out, you know? Bad girl. All right, so select the, I'd be bad girl if I did all that, right? The lights just go down. You want to pick a format. Remember I told you, pick a bundle. You may want to do a newsletter. You may want to do a promotion, do a card. There's several different things. You don't have to have all these different templates. I think that's what overwhelms a lot of people. Pick 2 or 3 to start out with. Brand them consistently. I'll show you a couple examples of that. And then have that calendar. That newsletter may go out on the 1st and the 15th, just as a reminder for the 15th. You may have, we talked about Friday Facts or some kind of Wednesday special. Make sure you have that on the calendar. Set them up early. If you don't have a plan, do it on a quarterly basis. We'll talk about that. But the key is you want to have an idea of what kind of campaigns. You may want to do a welcome campaign that just welcomes new customers that you already have. You can resend that campaign out to people when they join your mailing list or come into your business, or you land that deal and close the sale. You may want to just use it for sharing information, building your network. Maybe you're going to have a networking activity that you want to invite people. You know what? I realized when I started doing networking events, people saw me as the resource. When I started giving away information, they thought, God, Linnell knows everybody. She knows everything. No, I don't. But the key is I played very well of knowing that I can introduce you together and those 2 people together, and people realize that, you know, I'm well connected. I'm just doing a great service. It's about building relationships, strategic alliances. So you want to do that. And then you want to brand your business. The key is you spend a lot of money on a logo, right? Marketing materials, use them. Make sure they're consistent. You don't want to have different looking things. So when you use a campaign, here's 3 examples of a newsletter, actually an appointment reminder, and a holiday card. Their color scheme is consistent. They've got 2 colors in their logo, and they've used that in their campaigns. If you have 3 colors in your logo, use 3 colors. Don't get psychedelic. Don't get crazy. Don't feel blue today, yellow tomorrow, green the day after, because people get distracted. The key is you want to brand your business. And then this is one of my favorites because you can tell that she's personalized her campaign. She has a lavender color scheme. She uses her image in everything that she does, and she does a variety of different campaigns. So literally, when you open up her emails, the first thing you're going to see is Peggy Park's face. And so therefore, she's got 3 different campaigns, but they all have a similar look that's going to help brand your business. And then the quality content. We talked about this. On social platforms, on email platforms, it's really what you say. If you don't say anything relevant, it's not going to be important to the person who's reading it, and they're going to opt out. Just like me, if you sell me anything, try to sell me anything on a dog, I don't want it, right? So therefore, I'm telling you, I don't want it. I don't want anything moving in my house. I'm an empty nester. I'm happy. But the key is get to know your audience and don't send them things that you think that you can convince them to buy, only what they're interested in. So what do we write about? There's several things. Write about what people don't know, okay? What's your business?
Ambulance service.
Say again?
An ambulance service?
Ambulance service. Okay, what don't I know about ambulance services?
That there's both non-emergent and emergent transport.
Okay, did you know that?
Yeah, I work with them.
Okay.
So we're good.
I know that.
I can tell you the same thing.
You can tell them the same thing? All right. So it doesn't have to be an emergency. So what is considered not an emergency?
Appointments.
Appointment.
Therapy.
Okay. You could just come pick me up and take me to my appointment?
Yep.
I'll do that because driving is getting exhausting.
It is.
All right. Okay. So what don't they know? You know, most people wouldn't know. I wouldn't have known that. So now if my mother says, Mom, no, I need you to take me to the doctor, I'm like, I'm going to call South Star. They'll come pick you up tomorrow. All right. So then what you don't have, what you have access to that you don't. Be the resource for people. If you have information or access to something, let people know. Everybody always wants the hookup or the special. Oh, can I get, somebody wants tickets to the Masters. I think he said it all day. I'm sure before he leaves today, he has put it out in the universe that somebody's going to give him some Master tickets, right? You even stay an extra night. So it's happened to me. You know, let me tell you my little Oprah story. One year, I was going to National Restaurant Association. You got to put it out there. I was in Chicago at the DoubleTree. And what was I in Chicago for? Oh, National Restaurant Show. And so the guy, the bellman was like, oh, what are you here for? I'm like, I'm here for this. He's like, what else you want to do? I was like, I'd love to get tickets to the Oprah show. He's like, go to Concierge. So I called them, and they were like, oh, that's really hard to get. And I was like, well, just try. You know, doesn't hurt to try. My mother said, ask, you never know. So the last day, they're leaving. It was like, oh, we found some tickets, but your flight's at 11 o'clock. You ever heard of standby, honey? Give me those tickets. So I got the tickets. I was excited, and I've had my experience of being on the Oprah show, well, at least in the audience. So the key is, you never know what people have access to, and you share that with them. And then original isn't required. If you're not a thought leader or you can't write articles, you can always use somebody else's article. Just get permission, okay? We work with clients all the time. I'm not an expert in everybody's field, so you know what? Go to Google, type in some information. I'm going to get an answer. I'm still trying to figure out, yeah, you got answers to everything. I think you just don't know. But literally, if I can't figure it out, I'll type in Google, find the article, figure out who the writer is, because they always put their information at the bottom, and I send an email saying, hey, I have a client, they want to use your article, is it okay? They usually reply right back and say, sure, just give us credit. Boom. Now you have article content that you didn't have to create, okay? Just make sure it's not a competing business, because you don't want to derive your business to theirs. And then a compelling subject line. You'd be surprised by just changing the subject line how it can open up your campaigns almost by 30%. And to give you an example, I do campaigns all the time. I do events all the time. And one time I did something, I'm thinking, okay, grow your business with email and social media marketing. That should be exciting enough, don't you think? No, it wasn't. So I promote it. I like to get my numbers in early, even though now it seems like everybody waits 48 hours to decide if they're going to register an event, right? 48 hours seems like the magic number. But I like to get my numbers in early. So I changed it up, try to give them free stuff. That didn't work. Then I was like, lunch on me. Boom, numbers went up 62 people in less than 2 hours. And I'm thinking, and my son was like, Mommy, you feed them, they coming. So now I know free food brings an attendance. So change up your subject line. But there's a rule now. You actually have 2 words or 2 seconds, 2 words, and today, so it needs to be relevant to make your subject line compelling. Okay, so you have a short time to capture their attention, so make it good. Okay, April newsletter, snoozer. Don't do it. It doesn't tell people anything. What I always recommend is build your content first and then think about what you put in there that would drive that subject line. So start with the content and then pull out what you think will be important. And then the key is we all want word of mouth marketing. Spread the word. Social media is the big thing today. If I did an email seminar, people may come. I do get a good percentage. But if I tell you social media, they're coming out the woodworks all over the place. So the key is you want to use these tools. We talked about LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. You got Pinterest. Anybody on Pinterest? I could tell you all the ladies, most of the ladies, right? No guys on Pinterest yet? If you want it, you know, ladies like to spend money and shop, so you better start advertising on those mediums. Then you have Instagram, which is connected to Facebook. Just take a quick picture. It's posted. People follow you and share. YouTube, second largest search engine. 2, who's the first one? Google? But the key is you want to use your email and then amplify it on those different platforms. So to make it easy, we actually have a social share bar that when you send out an email campaign, literally the person who received it can click on Facebook, and what's going to happen, it's going to show up as a post on their Facebook page. And then the people that they most engage with is actually going to start seeing that post too, so it helps spread the word. So the key is you want to make that go viral, or by helping people in their network spread the word for you. And then at the bottom of your campaigns, and sometimes people put them on the side, you want to have links to your actual sites as well, so people can go out there, like, follow you, or see what your channel looks like on YouTube. We also have a simple share tool. So if I send out my campaign, I can actually pick 3 of the platforms that we have right now and literally give each one a different messaging. So when my email campaign is deployed, it goes out to my social sites too. So now you have all these different ways of your email communication going out to different networks, different groups. And if you only had a list of 100 people, but your friends had maybe 1,000 each of on their site, now you've reached thousands of people, and so on and so on. And then you have to measure and analyze your marketing. If you're not doing anything else, you've got to measure your results. If you're doing any kind of marketing or advertising and you have no way to track it, even if you pick when the phone rings and you say, "How did you hear about us?" you are doing yourself a disservice. You're spending a lot of money. And actually, you're wasting a lot of money. And if you want to waste it, I'll take it. Because the key is you want to make sure that if you even have a $10,000 budget, where's that money going? And is it reaching the people that we want? Is it bringing us the results? Hopefully, you're going to get more money in return than what you're spending. So you have to be able to track that. And so when most people come to me, they say, "Lynell, I want high open rates." Well, what are you doing to get high open rates? High open rates are really the interaction. So when we talked about having images, have it clickable to something, people see that picture, it needs to be linked to something. Maybe your website, maybe the article, okay? Your link should be going somewhere. This is what people are going to see that's going to drive that interest. And mind you, when you have those click-throughs, those could be lead generators. So an example that we shared earlier in Kansas City, one of my colleagues was telling me how there was a printing company. They actually did a newsletter, and they had this printer that was about $8,000. So they sent it out to their list. About 30 people clicked on that printer, and they took that list and called all the 30 people that clicked on that link. They converted 10 orders. That's $80,000. I don't know what the commission on that, but I'll take it. And so the key was you don't just send out these emails and think it's going to do everything for you. You still have the reporting, you get the analytics, use that data to follow up with people and close the sale. You get those results and you do something with it. You'll see if people forward your campaigns, if they clicked on something specific. One thing about that, if you have 2 articles and they're totally different, you can see who clicked on that article and then save that group specific for. So if I did like pets, and I know there's a lot of dog lovers in the room. I just had dogs before, but they're a lot of work. So if you have dogs and you have birds, that's two different kind of animals. If I clicked on some links for dogs, and I can say, you know what, these people are dog lovers. If I clicked on birds, people click on birds, I can separate them and put them in a group for bird lovers. So when I'm doing a sale or some kind of promotion on bird cages, I don't send it to the people who have dogs. It's irrelevant, right? You send it to the people who have birds. So therefore, you can use this reporting to really fine-tune and segment that list even more thoroughly. And then what influences that? The subject line and the from line. One thing about the from line, people look and see who the email's from first, right? Is that what you look at when you go get in your inbox? Who's it from? Who do I know? So you want to make sure that you're using it consistently, either your company name or your name personally. Who do they have the relationship with? Do they have a relationship with the Chronicle, or do they have a relationship with Melissa? And if you're not sure, do what I did. But here's the thing what I did when I tested my campaign. When I acquired this position, everything was Constant Contact Georgia. Well, you know me. You don't know me, but what I want to tell you is I wanted people to get to know me. So I decided to do Linnell Henderson, Constant Contact Georgia. I started getting opt-outs. People didn't know me. But then when I turned back and went back to Constant Contact Georgia, Linnell Henderson, people got it. So the relationship was with Constant Contact, and then after a while, they got to know me. So you really want to play with it or just decide, how do people recognize you in their inbox, or who do they have a relationship with, my company or yourself personally? Also, the time of day is really important. I can send an email out at 9 o'clock in the morning, and maybe there's a whole lot of people with kids who have active children lifestyles. They in sports, you got cheerleading, you got all these different things, you got homework. You may check your personal email in the end of the day. So if I send you something in the morning, it's not going to be in that person's inbox. It's going to be at the bottom of that person's inbox. So what you can do is take your analytics and say, you know what, I have this segment of people, and they may be active parents, or they may just check their personal email at night, and I need to send that email to that group at maybe 8 o'clock at night. It's going to be they're going to be more apt to opening it because it's right when they're in front of their computer. So think about the times of the day. And then we don't want to over-communicate. Even if you're doing daily tips, that's a lot of information. We already agreed that we get a lot of email. Make sure you set up your list where you don't over-communicate. That's the number one reason why people will opt out, besides it not being relevant to them. And then we talked about the images, the devices people are using, and then watching your trends over time. I know I had a lady in Athens who was saying her numbers were going down. And so what I realized is she started just sending the same kind of promotion. She was a spa. If you're sending a $200 spa service to a bunch of college kids in Athens, UGA, they're not going to sign up. I mean, my son may have tried to spend that much money, but that average college kid doesn't want to spend that much money. So you need to have separate messaging for the college kids, like a roommate special or something. You know, you think about your audience, and then you drive the right messaging to that group. And then you have to have a call to action. Do not make these efforts of doing any kind of marketing and you don't know what you want from it. So if you send out and spend the time to design a newsletter, what do you want? An appointment? You know, buy something, have a link to your e-commerce site. You need to make an offer, or maybe it's downloadable copy. You need to have something that you can track, that you can follow up on. And then also with that social share bar that we showed you earlier, the great thing is we actually track that. So if somebody saw your email and they liked it to post it on their page, they're actually going to show you the stats that there's 33 shares on Facebook. This one says 22 tweets. If you're not on those platforms, this right here is going to tell you, you know what, maybe this is a platform that we need to be on. So you don't have to start out with taking on all social media at once, but maybe you use the social share bar to see that, you know what, I'm not thinking of all the platforms I could put my message out there. Clearly, my audience is telling me where they're sharing it. You need to take that in consideration as well. And the last thing I'm going to ask, how many people in the room have a marketing plan? I saw one hand, raise it high. Okay, I said raise it high, and she's like, oh, what does that mean? 2 people. What does that mean? It's in your head? Oh.
No, it's not elaborate, but I do jot it down
Okay.
on a yearly basis and probably update it about every 6 months.
Okay, that's better than everybody else in the room. So you just here's any candy left? And about you, what kind of marketing plan do you have?
Well, I market for a large real estate company, so we do it at the beginning of the year to make sure that we're reaching the amount of people we want to throughout the whole year.
Okay. because real estate, you got to cover a lot of territory. And you should have a plan, so it's great that you do that every year. The key is for those who don't have one, you don't have to do a whole year's worth. That's overwhelming sometimes, trying to do it for the whole year. So start with a quarter. April 1st is coming up. You got a week left, right? I'm going to give you some homework. Those, you need to do your homework because you need to have a marketing plan. The key is you need to have some kind of layout. Do it on a quarterly basis, 3 months at a time. It's not overwhelming. And at the end of that quarter, look and see what works and what doesn't work, okay? Stop doing what doesn't work and then continue to expand on what is working. So we actually have a couple of checklists. I'm sure my time is almost out. Right? So I'm not going to go through all these, but you're going to ask yourself certain questions. Do you have repeat customers? Okay, so start with your existing customers. If you have repeat business, think about how they can help leverage getting you more business. What multiple communication channels? There's not just email. There's so many different forms out there. Think about what other platforms that you could be using on. And then are you collecting information? When you're joining your mailing list, we talked about first name, last name, email address, company, and a phone number. Because if that email gets changed, which people will do, you have lost reach with that customer. So you need to be able to pick up the phone and call them and say, either your email's not going through or we cannot reach you, do you have another one? And so literally, if you don't have a plan, this is something that you could do in a couple of hours or less and just start charting down your path of what you need to do. You need to have a roadmap. Most people here in the community, I had to take GPS. I was driving in the dark today. I need to know where I'm going. The only way I'm going to do that is to know how many people I need to reach and how many people I need to convert to close that sale. And so therefore, you have to have a plan to do that. And quickly, just a review, set up your account properly with any email service provider that you're using. Setting objectives. Why are you doing this? Am I informing, educating, letting people know why they should do business with me instead of my competition next door? Build a small bundle of campaigns that you can use, brand them consistently. Quality content, find content. What I do when I surf and do my Google searches, I always do add to reading list. That's my number one thing. I do it on my iPad, add to reading list. So therefore, I can quickly get back to that article. And then creating a compelling subject line, short and sweet. No more than 8 words is all you need in your subject line. Spread the word using social media. Leverage the people that you know and who they know to get your word out. And then analyze your results. I can't stress that anymore. You got to know what is doing what by what's pulling in the results, who's reaching who, and then the follow through, close the sale. And then lastly, which actually should be first really, is plan. Have some kind of strategy in place so you'll know what you need to do every day. Hope is not a strategy. You can't get up this morning and be like, what am I going to do today to get some business? You got to kind of have it laid out strategically. You have to know who your audience is, what your customers like to buy, and then you hone on those people. And I'm done.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.